LoveLore Library. Chapter 205. Fortunately, there weren't many customers in the store, so the woman's actions didn't attract too much attention. Jing Yunzhao's heart was also flustered. She raised her head to take a closer look. This couple's attitude was earnest. The woman's tears flowed down in strings, both her eyes were red, but she seemed to be sincere. She kept calling her eldest lass, so it was hard for her not to overthink the meaning behind those words. The other party cried for a while, but she wasn't afraid. She directly sat down on the seat next to her and stared at Jing Yunzhao as if she was afraid that she would escape. She slowly opened her mouth and said, "Eldest lass, I've wronged you all these years. I thought you already, isn't the child fine? Don't speak nonsense." The man next to her immediately stopped her. "What do you two mean? Can you explain it clearly?" Jing Yunzhao said with a frown. After she found out about her identity in her previous life, she also wanted to find her biological parents, but she was already in prison at that time. She didn't have any requirements for her biological parents. This was Huaning County, which was only a small place. It was basically impossible for her parents to be rich and noble. Moreover, if their family was really well off, then there was no reason for them to abandon her. So when she saw the two people in front of her, Jing Yunzhao was already half believing and half doubting. "Lass, you have a small gold jade pendant on you, right?" The two people looked at each other and asked. Jing Yunzhao's gaze was complicated as she nodded. "Then there's no mistake. You're our child. Your surname is Jing, and it's engraved on the jade tablet. When I gave birth to you, your grandmother saw that you were a girl, so she secretly threw you away behind your father and me. I searched the entire village but couldn't find you. Eldest lass, don't blame me. I've also missed you all these years." The woman cried. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips and her expression was calm. Xiao Haiqing was already so shocked that she couldn't speak. Her mouth was opened so wide that an egg could be stuffed in. After a while, she carefully opened her mouth and said, "Yunzhao." These were Jing Yunzhao's biological parents. However, for some reason, she felt that it was very strange, or rather, she was somewhat unwilling to believe it. Of course, it wasn't that she despised the two of them for looking poor, but she felt that they weren't quite the same as Jing Yunzhao. Whether it was their eyebrows or silhouettes, there wasn't the slightest bit of similarity. The only convincing thing was the jade token. "Yunzhao, the Qiao clan knows that you have a jade token." Xiao Haiqing suddenly remembered and reminded him. As soon as Xiao Haiqing said this, the woman next to her immediately said, "Are you suspecting that we are imposters? Little classmate, you think too badly of us." "Dia, it's fine if you don't want to believe it. Isn't there a paternity test now? Let's just do it. You're definitely my child. How can I be wrong?" Since he had already said so much, Xiao Haiqing really couldn't say anything more. However, it would be best if they could do an appraisal. Jing Yunzhao also nodded. Her heart was already in a mess. Although she occasionally thought about the matter of her biological parents, she didn't have any expectations. She didn't even think that she would meet them. At this moment, she couldn't even maintain her composure. "Child, there's no mistake." The woman opened her mouth again but was stopped by the man. She only heard the man say, "The child just saw us and can't accept it. How about this, child? I'll leave you my phone number. You tell me where you live and how to contact you. You can tell your adoptive parents and we'll do the appraisal tomorrow, okay?" Chapter 206. The couple's attitude was sincere and it seemed like their relationship was pretty much confirmed. Jing Yunzhao nodded and the other party introduced them. The man was called Jing Taijun and the woman was called Wang Xianfang. As for the other details, because their relationship was still uncertain, they didn't say much. The two stopped and talked for more than half an hour before leaving. Xiao Haiqing sighed. She felt that something was off. Yun Zhao, do you think they're really your biological parents? Xiao Haiqing asked. The food in front of her was already cold and she didn't have any appetite. She used her chopsticks to stir the food. We'll know after the results are out. Jing Yunzhao was also confused. After all, everything happened too suddenly. She met her biological parents while shopping and they even recognized her at a glance. It was really hard for her to grasp. However, she had been thrown away when she was still an infant. At that time, her eyebrows and eyes had not yet grown. Moreover, babies changed their appearance every day. Even if the woman remembered her appearance at that time, after more than 10 years, the difference was like heaven and earth. This woman did not have discerning eyes, so how could she be sure? Moreover, because this jade tablet was related to space, she specially bought a sturdy chain and strung it up. Normally, she wouldn't take it out and show it to others. Although it was summer, she was wearing a light blue shirt with the buttons neatly fastened. If she didn't do some vigorous exercise, the jade gourd inside would definitely not be revealed. It was impossible for the woman to rely on this jade gourd to recognize her. Moreover, although this jade gourd looked dull like a fake product, how could something left behind by the ancestor be inferior? If this jade tablet was bought by Jing Taijun from an antique stall, then how could the ancestor inside the jade be explained? Could it be that Jing Taijun coincidentally bought something left behind by the Jing family? And if this jade gourd wasn't bought by Jing Taijun but was instead a family heirloom, then it would be even harder to explain. That woman kept saying that she was abandoned by the Jing family's old madam. Since the old madam favored males over females, she would never leave the things left behind by the Jing family's old ancestor to her granddaughter who might not even survive. Jing Yunzhao did not voice his suspicions. After all, the space inside the jade tablet and the ancestor were secrets that could not be revealed to others. Moreover, the results of the DNA test were still unknown. Everything was still too early. Once the results were out, if she really was the daughter of the Jing family, he would naturally think of a way to find out more. After such a commotion, the two of them no longer had the mood to continue shopping. After Jing Yunzhao returned, he asked Pak Yuan to inquire about it. The next morning, they also received the news. This Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfang came from a village called Water Village near Huaning County. Wang Xinfang's parents-in-law had already passed away. Jing Taijun was an ordinary worker while Wang Xinfang was a housewife responsible for farming and taking care of the children. Jing Taijun had 4 children. According to Pak Yuan, this couple gave birth late. The eldest was a girl who was lost a few years ago. The neighbors did not remember the exact time, but she should be around the same age as Jing Yunzhao. The eldest girl had 2 more daughters and the youngest was a son. Currently, the Jing family of 5 was completely dependent on Jing Taijun's meager income. Their days were very difficult. Jing Yunzhao did not have a good impression of this couple who could very well be her parents. Perhaps it was because of the suspicions in his heart, but he always felt that this matter was too inexplicable. Chapter 207. No matter what, Jing Yunzhao couldn't turn a blind eye to her parents. After all, she also wanted to know if she was a wild girl that popped out from a crack in a rock. That morning, Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfang indeed appeared at the entrance of the district. The two were still wearing yesterday's clothes, while Jing Yunzhao was clean and tidy. The material of her clothes looked very good, creating a sharp contrast. "Eldest daughter, aren't your adoptive parents coming with you?" Wang Xinfang asked. Huaning County was only a small county and didn't have the technology to do a paternity test, so they had to make a trip to Ning City today. School would start the day after tomorrow, so there was still enough time. However, the results would probably take 10 days to half a month. I've cut ties with them. I'm alone now. Jing Yunzhao answered. Her face was delicate and pretty, and her temperament was cold and elegant. When she spoke, there was a bit of dignity, which made the couple stunned. However, very quickly, Wang Xinfang opened her mouth. How can this be good? We raised you up. If you cut ties with your biological parents just because you found them, then how will your reputation be good in the future? It's not because of you. Right now, we're not sure if we're related by blood, so you don't need to worry about this for now. Thank you. Jing Yunzhao's voice was powerful and resonant, polite and distant. Not to mention that they didn't know if they were biological parents. Even if they were biological parents, they couldn't be intimate for a while. Moreover, when she thought about the news Pak Yuan told her this morning, she felt somewhat uncomfortable in her heart. The couple said that the Jing family's elders favored boys over girls, but in reality, Wang Xinfang's mother-in-law passed away about 15 years ago. In other words, even if her grandmother had abandoned her, the couple had given birth to another child without anyone pressuring them. Her other two daughters were 14 and 12 years old, while her youngest son was 10 years old. They would give birth to another child every 2 years until they gave birth to their son. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't seem like they were forced by their elders. Jing Yunzhao's attitude at this time made the couple's faces stiffen. Forget it, forget it. The child hasn't been by our side for so many years, so it's normal for her to have some differences with us. Let's go to the city first. Jing Taijun faintly sighed. The two of them had a distressed look on their faces, as if they had suffered a great sin. Jing Yunzhao didn't mind and got on the bus to Ning City with the two of them. In the car, Jing Yunzhao's exquisite appearance inevitably attracted people's attention. Wang Xinfang, who was beside her, saw that people were staring at Jing Yunzhao, so she put on a smile and said, "This is my eldest daughter." Originally, there were only a few glances from the others, but after Wang Xinfang's words, the car became lively in no time. "Big sister, you really know how to raise your daughter. This girl is so pretty. I think she can be a star." The auntie sitting next to her praised. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly as he sat by the window. He was not used to it. The space in the car was claustrophobic, so it was easy to feel annoyed and stuffy. Moreover, she had never liked being pointed at. Even if the other party had good intentions, the gazes that looked like they were looking at a gorilla made her feel uncomfortable. This girl was beautiful when she was young, but big sister, you don't know. My family's girl was lost for many years. I only found her yesterday. It's been too long. My daughter was still young and couldn't recognize me. That's why I specially went to Ning City to do a DNA test. Wang Xinfang didn't care if the other party was willing to listen or not and said directly. Chapter 208. Most of these people were curious. When they heard Wang Xinfang's words, many of them turned their heads and stared at Jing Yunzhao for a while. How could you lose her? It's such a pity. If you don't raise the child by your side, you'll definitely become distant. She's already so big. The auntie said out of turn. After she finished speaking, many people expressed their agreement in their hearts. However, at the same time, they also understood Jing Yunzhao's cold attitude. Seeing that this girl was dressed appropriately and the material of her clothes were extremely good, she must have lived a very good life before she found her biological parents. Looking at her parents, they were covered in dirt and grime. With one look, one could tell that their family situation wasn't very good. This girl must have despised them in her heart, right? Sigh, it's all my fault for only finding her after so long. Even if she blames me, it's only right. However, I believe that the child's nature isn't bad. Everything will be fine in the future. Now that I've found her, I can die in peace. Wang Xinfang said with a bitter face. Jing Yunzhao's eyebrows twitched. At this moment, her mood became more and more complicated. She wasn't an ordinary 16-year-old girl. In the past, she had been tormented by Qiao Hongye so much that she was extremely sensitive to the tone of other people's words. How could she not hear the ambiguity in her words? All of her words were telling others that she was blaming her biological parents. Also, if her nature wasn't bad, did that mean that her temperament wasn't good right now? Jing Yunzhao took a deep breath. If these were her biological parents, it seemed that there would be trouble in the future. Little girl, you have to be filial to your parents in the future. Look at how tired they are. You can't make them unhappy anymore. When they were about to get out of the car, the auntie next to her said again. Along the way, Wang Xinfang and the auntie chatted happily. Jing Yunzhao didn't want to talk too much, so she didn't pay attention to them. However, at this moment, when she heard such words again, Jing Yunzhao couldn't bear it anymore. Auntie, if you like educating people so much, you can go back and educate your own children. Do you have nothing better to do now? Also, if they were really my parents, I would naturally be filial to them, but I'm not sure if that's the case. Even if they were, they wouldn't be so tired because of me. Please don't put all the blame on me. I just met this couple yesterday, and I'm already very cooperative by being willing to come over today. Besides, I haven't said a word along the way. Which eye of yours saw me making them unhappy again? After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, he glanced at Wang Xinfang. Aunt Wang, don't you have 2 daughters and a son in your family? Why didn't she mention it when she was talking to others? Look, everyone has misunderstood me. They think that you've been looking for me for more than 10 years after you abandoned me. As soon as Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, he exhaled and got out of the car. His back was cold. She had long been used to living without her biological parents. Now, she was willing to acknowledge them not because she lacked family affection, but because she wanted to give herself an explanation. During those days in prison in her previous life, she constantly wondered why her biological parents had abandoned her. She also constantly fantasized about how her life would be like if she had never been separated from her biological parents. Therefore, she didn't resist these 2 people who suddenly appeared and claimed to be her parents. She even actively cooperated with them. Jing Yunzhao's words made Wang Xinfang and the auntie blush. The auntie suspiciously glared at Wang Xinfang. So this couple actually had 3 children? That was different. If they really missed their lost children so much, why did they keep giving birth to so many? They valued boys more than girls, right? Chapter 209. Wang Xinfang was exposed by Jing Yunzhao on the spot and felt embarrassed. She hurriedly got out of the car. The strong sunlight outside made her face even redder. Jing Yunzhao opened his mouth as if to say something, but Jing Yunzhao ignored him. He simply called a taxi and drove to Ning City's largest hospital. How expensive is it to call a taxi? If the 3 of us took the bus, it would only cost a few dollars. Wang Xinfang couldn't help but mutter. Her face was a bit bitter. It would be better if she was smiling, but right now, she looked as if she had lost $1,000. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but wonder if she would cry if she kept this mouth shape for a while. It's fine. It's just a few dozen dollars. What's more important than finding our daughter? Jing Taijun said. Wang Xinfang didn't say anything. But when they got out of the car, before Jing Taijun could take out the money, Jing Yunzhao had already handed it over. She didn't want to take advantage of others. If the test results came out and the other party wasn't her biological parents, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't yell at her for a few dozen dollars. She had enough of people like Chow Weimin. Now, she was a bit guarded against everyone. This Ning City Central Hospital had many tall buildings. It looked really grand and wasn't something that a small place like the county could compare to. Ning City's prosperity could be ranked in the top in the whole of China. This medical standard also represented the development of Ning City. Therefore, not only was the construction very grand, the environment inside was also very good. The test wasn't very troublesome. Pay the money, collect the blood sample, and it was over quickly. Under Jing Yunzhao's insistence, the few $1,000s were split equally between the two parties so that there wouldn't be any monetary implications after confirming that they weren't related. Xiao Yun, you see, this big hospital is really different. Oh right, a few days ago I felt a bit out of breath and wasn't feeling very well. Since we're already here, why don't you accompany Mom to have a look? Wang Xinfang also knew that Jing Yunzhao didn't like to interact with others. She just stood beside her with a face full of expectation. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her and nodded. The departments in the central hospital were clearly separated. One only needed to take the elevator to get up and down. Every place was easy to find. Wang Xinfang did a few tests while Jing Yunzhao and Jing Yunzhao waited outside. There were people coming and going in the hospital. Jing Yunzhao stood in the same place, but suddenly, someone bumped into her. Ouch! Why did you bump into me? It hurts so much. The old lady on the ground scolded. I didn't hit you. You threw yourself at me, Jing Yunzhao said directly. There weren't cameras everywhere in the hospital. At least, there weren't any where Jing Yunzhao was at. Little girl, why are you spouting nonsense? Are you her guardian? How did you educate your child? I'm not trying to blackmail you. These days, children are getting more and more immature. The old lady got up and pointed at Jing Taijun as she scolded. Jing Taijun looked a bit embarrassed. I'm sorry. My daughter didn't do it on purpose. How about this, I have a few hundred yuan here. I'll leave some for the fare and give the rest to you. After Jing Taijun finished speaking, he stood in front of her as if he was afraid that she would be bullied. He quickly stuffed the money into the old lady's hands and helped her leave. Although Jing Taijun's face was full of protection, Jing Yunzhao wasn't moved at all. Whether or not she did it, Jing Taijun was clear in his heart. This kind of behavior was only confirming her crime. She, Jing Yunzhao, was reborn. She definitely wouldn't bear a crime that didn't belong to her, even if this matter was so small that it could be ignored. Wait! Jing Yunzhao shouted with a cold face. She walked over and stuffed the money in the old lady's hands back into Jing Taijun's hands. There's no reason in this world to pay for being bumped into. Chapter 210. The old lady and Jing Taijun were both stunned. Some of the patients beside them also stopped. The old lady was old and weak. She looked like a weakling. Weaklings were easy to sympathize with. She did not have an advantage in this aspect. Little girl, are you trying to bully the old lady? Didn't you go to school? Didn't your teacher teach you to respect the old and love the young? The old lady said. Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed with a trace of mockery. Old lady, you're not the only one in this hospital. I believe there are still people who saw the truth. Even if everyone thinks that I hit you, fine, I'll just go for a checkup. It's best if it's a full-body checkup. Although it's a little troublesome, I think it's more responsible than a few hundred yuan, right? Jing Yunzhao paused for a moment before continuing, Old madam, I can check every single part of your body, but don't worry, you don't have to pay for it. It's just taking a bit of your blood and tormenting you a bit. If I can't finish it in a day, then we'll continue tomorrow. I'll take full responsibility for this, what do you say? After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, the old lady's face trembled. I don't want to check, and I don't want your money. I just want you to apologize. The old lady was in a deadlock. Apologize? Sure, but you have to think it through. Jing Yunzhao laughed coldly and spoke in a voice that no one else could hear. After I apologize, if an old man like you really gets hit by a car, then you can't blame me anymore. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. We'll definitely meet again in the future. When that time comes, if I'm still young and don't know any better and accidentally kill someone, then the responsibility wouldn't be too heavy. After hearing this, the old lady could not help but take a step back. Jing Yunzhao's murderous aura was thick. His smile was cold and cruel. It was really scary. The old lady turned to leave. Jing Yunzhao directly reached out and grabbed her arm. He continued to smile and said, Why are you leaving? Aren't you going for a checkup? You just said that I hit you. Don't I have to take responsibility? His hand was slender and looked like he was pulling gently. However, the old lady's face was pale. She felt like her bones were about to break. She stared at Jing Yunzhao with her eyes wide open. However, she saw that Jing Yunzhao's cold smile was still as if he did not do it on purpose. You let go of me, the old lady said anxiously. That won't do. My teacher taught me to respect the old and love the young. He also taught me to take responsibility. If you leave, someone might say that I ran into an old lady and abandoned her. Jing Yunzhao's voice was cold. His strength increased by a few notches. No, you didn't hit me. It was my own carelessness. The old lady was suddenly frightened. She felt that the girl wasn't just trying to scare her. Her gaze was as if she wanted to eat someone. Moreover, she was extremely strong. She felt that if she didn't retreat, this little girl would crush her arm in the next second. Really? In that case, I'm relieved. Jing Yunzhao looked at her deeply and let go of her hand. The old lady instantly left as if she was running for her life. As they grew older, they naturally cherished their lives more than the younger ones. Who would dare to provoke someone over such a small matter? What if the person they met was really a lunatic? He never thought that Jing Yunzhao would use such a method to scare the old lady away. Originally, he wanted to take this opportunity to show off and let Jing Yunzhao let down his guard. Who would have thought that this little girl would not play by the rules at all? When ordinary children encountered such a situation, would they use such a method to resolve it? Don't say any more, Uncle Jing. I know what you're thinking. However, I hate it when people plot against me. If you're really my biological parents, then I will naturally fulfill my responsibility to support you. However, if you have other ideas, then I won't accompany you. Right now, we still don't know if we're father and daughter, so I don't think I need to fulfill my responsibility as a daughter. Therefore, I'm sorry, but I'll leave first. Chapter 211. Jing Yunzhao didn't wait for Jing Taijun to respond and turned to leave. Her elegant and cold figure made Jing Taijun dumbfounded. He had 3 children and 2 of them were daughters. Those 2 girls were only a few years younger than Jing Yunzhao, but they weren't like her at all. Where's Xiao Yun? When Wang Xinfang came out of the checkup, she saw that her husband was the only one around and asked. She left. Jing Taijun's face didn't look too good and added, she said that she's not our daughter yet, so there's no need to take full responsibility. Hearing this, Wang Xinfang's eyes widened. How could there be such an unreasonable child? Although the test results wouldn't be out for the time being, now that the other aspects were almost confirmed, Jing Yunzhao should have an idea in her heart, right? How was she like a 16-year-old child? That cold look made it seem like they had a deep hatred. The two looked at each other and didn't say much. But when they thought of the money they paid for the checkup, their hearts ached. Since Jing Yunzhao came to Ning City, she naturally had to go to the company. The housing prices in Ning City couldn't be compared to Huaning County. Pak Yuan rented a floor of an office building in Ning City, and the area wasn't small. Now that everyone in the company had their own duties, plus the fact that they had just started a business, their enthusiasm was extremely high. These days, all the products of Yuling wine were taken out by Jing Yunzhao from her space. But it wouldn't be long before the factory could support the entire industry chain, so she didn't need to work so hard. At this time, when Pak Yuan and Xiang Jin heard that she had come to Ning City, they were inexplicably excited and even nervous. Even though Jing Yunzhao was still young, her imposing manner had never been weak. Even though the company looked like it was in shape, they were still worried that something would happen to the employees when Jing Yunzhao, the real big boss, arrived. Thus, on this day, the requirements for the employees were even stricter. Everyone originally thought that there would be some powerful client coming to inspect them, but they found out that the person who came in was just a 15 or 16-year-old girl. They were puzzled and even a little confused. In order to avoid affecting the morale of the employees, Jing Yunzhao's identity wasn't strict. In the eyes of the employees, she was just the sister of the general manager, Pak Yuan. Pak Yuan was in his 30s, and his appearance was outstanding, but he wasn't a warm man at all. Because of work, Pak Yuan was even stricter to his employees. Xiang Jin was the same, separating public and private matters. Once it involved business, she wouldn't give face to anyone. These two people of them were the company's general manager and the other were the company's vice president. And they were both single. However, the other higher-ups in the company were all selected by Bai Yuan and Jing Yunzhao. Their character was trustworthy, and they wholeheartedly devoted themselves to their work. They didn't have any crooked thoughts. As for the normal employees, even if they had feelings of admiration, they still revered Bai Yuan more. The atmosphere was harmonious, but when they saw Jing Yunzhao, they couldn't help but reveal looks of envy. Xiang Jin and Pak Yuan reported their work in the past few days according to the procedures, without the slightest hint of perfunctory. Jing Yunzhao found that the two of them handled everything in the company very well. After listening to these reports, it was already 5 or 6 in the evening. After all, Pak Yuan was a man, so Jing Yunzhao only let Xiang Jin accompany her to walk around Ning City at night. This city shone with neon lights, with some shocking beauty. Chapter 2:12. Xiang Jin had lived in Ning City for more than 20 years, so she was very familiar with this place. She specially brought Jing Yunzhao to a very good restaurant. It was quiet and elegant and quite romantic. Yunzhao, have you ever thought about transferring schools? I'm thinking that our company's development will definitely get better and better. If you're in Ning City, it'll be more convenient for you to exchange ideas. Moreover, Ning City's education is much better than Huaning County. You don't have any relatives in the county. Xiang Jin said with good intentions. Jing Yunzhao smiled. It's enough to have you guys here in Ning City. If there's really a big matter, you can contact me with a phone call. So let's just forget about transferring schools. Ning City was indeed good, but there were people she couldn't let go of in Huaning County. Grandpa Gon, Old Man Su, Xiao Haiqing, and Su Chu were the biggest gains in her life. As for grades, she wasn't worried at all. Although the learning environment was important, it still depended on the person. She believed that no matter what kind of situation she was in, she would be able to get the best grades. Otherwise, she would have been reborn for nothing. Right, if I remember correctly, you start school the day after tomorrow, right? Why did you think of coming to Ning City at this time? Xiang Jin took a sip of tea and asked puzzledly. She and Pak Yuen often went back to the county. Every time they went back, they would report to Jing Yun Zhao about their work. There was nothing to worry about at the company. If it was purely for sightseeing, they should have come earlier. That way, they could have stayed in Ning City for a few more days. Yesterday, when I was shopping with my friends, I met an auntie. She was certain that I was her long-lost daughter, so today I specially came to do a paternity test. Jing Yun Zhao played it down. Thinking about what happened during the day at the hospital, she still felt uncomfortable. But fortunately, she had experienced that kind of thing countless times in the Chiao family. Even if the other party was her biological parents, they were no different from strangers. So she didn't feel sad. When Xiang Jin heard this, she was shocked. Paternity test. When she met Jing Yun Zhao, she only had Gong Song Bai, her god-grandfather, by her side. The old man never mentioned anything about Jing Yun Zhao's family to her, but she did ask Pak Yuen about it. She only knew that her adoptive parents were extremely biased and selfish people, causing Jing Yun Zhao to suffer a lot in the past. Therefore, every time she saw Jing Yun Zhao, she would deliberately avoid talking about family matters. What kind of people are they? Is it good for you? Xiang Jin asked nervously. Although she hadn't spent much time with Jing Yun Zhao, she was grateful to Jing Yun Zhao from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for her, she wouldn't have been able to contact Master Tang. Later on, she wouldn't have been able to get a divorce. Her life would have been completely ruined. She respected and cared for Jing Yun Zhao. She treated her as her boss, but at the same time, she also treated her as a family member and even as a daughter. In terms of age, she and Pak Yuen were older than Jing Yun Zhao by 16 or 17 years. It wasn't an exaggeration to treat her as a daughter. It was just that Jing Yun Zhao's personality was mature and steady, so they always overlooked this point. Jing Yun Zhao stirred the drink in front of her. After the waiter served a few sumptuous dishes and left, she said, "We just met yesterday. I can't tell if it's good or bad, but I'm a very simple person. If people respect me, I'll respect them tenfold. But if the other party isn't easy to get along with, then I'm too lazy to deal with them." When Xiang Jin heard this, she nodded. Jing Yun Zhao's personality was indeed like that. It had to be said that with her temperament, it wasn't easy for her to be taken advantage of in this kind of situation. Even if they were biological parents, after all, they had been separated for more than 10 years. It was still very difficult for them to develop feelings for each other. However, Xiang Jin was still a little worried. From her point of view, she hoped that Jing Yun Zhao and the company would be well. But if that pair of parents knew that the young Jing Yun Zhao had amassed such wealth, would they not have any greedy thoughts in their hearts? Chapter 213. Yuling Wines was a rising star and had the most advantageous position. Xiang Jin and Pak Yuen were confident that they could make a name for themselves within a year and gain a firm foothold in Ning City's wine industry. Within 5 years, they even had hopes of making Yuling Wines the leader of the entire industry. They had the best wine recipes and didn't have to worry about development at all. As long as the owner of the company didn't have any problems. Yun Zhao, CEO Bai, and I will try our best to contact you through the phone in the future. It's better to be careful during this period of time. Also, even if they're your biological parents, you can't foolishly throw in all your savings before you know what their character is like. Xiang Jin said. Her meaning was clear. She hoped that Jing Yun Zhao would continue to keep the company's matters a secret. This was indeed a bit unreasonable, but it was better to be safe than sorry. If the other party was sincere towards Jing Yun Zhao, she believed that they wouldn't have any designs on the company. But what if they had other intentions? Those were parents who hadn't lived together before. They couldn't be compared to ordinary parents. Moreover, they hadn't seen each other for more than 10 years. She didn't believe that they didn't have any other children. In comparison, Jing Yunzhao, who had led a wandering life, definitely wasn't as important as the one by her side. What if she suffered because of this? How could Jing Yunzhao not understand that Xiang Jin was concerned about her? Her heart also warmed. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. She wasn't a selfish person. Towards relatives like Gong Songbai, she could unconditionally treat them well. But if they were like Qiao Wei Min, Jing Yunzhao smiled, a glimmer of light flashing through her eyes. No matter how important blood ties were, they couldn't be compared to feelings. Seeing Jing Yunzhao's calm expression, Xiang Jin let out a sigh of relief. She didn't forget that although the girl in front of her looked young, she was definitely different from those childish children. Her words even carried an invisible authority that could make her feel at ease every time. "Oh right, Aunt Xiang, how's the old lady? Do you want me to go see her tomorrow?" Jing Yunzhao suddenly asked. Xiang Jin's mother wasn't clear-headed because of the shock. She had been recuperating in the hospital before, but how could Qin Jishuao really let someone treat her? That was why his condition hadn't improved after so many years. In fact, it was getting worse. "It's best if you're willing. My mother doesn't even recognize me now. Uncle Gon went to visit her a few days ago and said that her mind is in a mess. She won't be able to recover in a short period of time. It's best for her to recuperate and then slowly guide her. She also has to pay attention to her daily life. Even the flowers in the house are used to calm her mind," Xiang Jin said. Xiang Jin had some faith in Jing Yunzhao's medical skills. She wasn't very knowledgeable in this area, but she did know that Jing Yunzhao had surprised many doctors before. Moreover, she never exaggerated and always did what she said. She said she wanted to take a look, so who knows, she might be able to cure the old lady. Xiang Jin happily nodded her head in agreement. They chatted for a while eating, and the two of them became more and more harmonious. Just as the two were about to pay and leave after finishing their meal, a woman in a red dress appeared in front of Xiang Jin. She looked at her in surprise and said, "Xiang Jin. You're Xiang Jin, right?" The other party had long wavy hair and a pair of 10 centimeters high heels. She carried a branded bag in her hand and wore a short red dress. Her figure was enchanting and charming. Jing Yunzhao only felt a pair of large breasts swaying back and forth in front of her eyes, so much so that she felt dizzy. Also, that strong perfume smell made her nose itch uncontrollably. "You are..." Xiang Jin was a little stunned. She was clearly shocked by this woman who suddenly appeared. Chapter 2:14. Xiang Jin had left Serene City for so many years, and now she had no friends in Serene City. Some of her old friends had even forgotten about her. "Director Xiang, why are you so forgetful?" The woman smiled charmingly and continued, "A few days ago, I saw a news article saying that Director Qin had gone bankrupt. I didn't believe it at first, but then I found some posts on the internet where Director Qin seemed to be a different person. I almost didn't recognize him." The woman said with a sympathetic face, "In the past, we were all so envious of you, Director Xiang. Not only did you have such a big family business, but you also had a filial husband. After you retired, we all thought that you were enjoying life. We didn't expect that you were bullied by that beast in human clothing all these years." The woman kept calling her Director Xiang, which made Xiang Jin remember. "You're Little Lu?" Xiang Jin asked. "What Little Lu?" "Director Xiang, I have a name. My name is Lu Danqing. You can call me Miss Lu or Danqing, but don't call me Little Lu. It sounds like I'm your errand girl." Lu Danqing rolled her eyes. Who was she envious of the most in the past? Wasn't it Xiang Jin? She had been a spoiled young lady since she was young. After her father died, she naturally inherited the company and even married a handsome and capable husband. Who wouldn't be envious? At that time, Lu Danqing was just a small secretary. Because she had just started working, she kept making mistakes. Xiang Jin often scolded her, making her embarrassed several times. How could a newbie be perfect at work? This Xiang Jin would make a big fuss out of nothing, as if she was getting her salary for nothing. Both Xiang Jin and Jing Yunzhao felt the hostility from the other party. Xiang Jin remembered, but she was also a little surprised because the Lu Danqing in her memory was not like this. At that time, she was pure and pretty. She had chosen her to work by her side because of her clean temperament. However, Lu Danqing was a little impetuous at that time, so she deliberately taught her a few times. But when she thought of the past, she really didn't feel that she had done anything wrong to Lu Danqing. One had to know that with her status at that time, even if she wanted to hire a small secretary, she should have hired someone with enough experience. Moreover, the treatment of being her secretary was better. It could be said that she had promoted Lu Danqing. I've offended you, Miss Lu. But please make way, we're leaving. Xiang Jin thought for a moment and said. She didn't want to stir up trouble, especially in front of Jing Yunzhao. What's the hurry? What did you guys eat today? Do you want me to pay for you? Lu Danqing's posture was strange and coquettish, and her voice was coquettish. No need, Xiang Jin said. Director Xiang, you don't have to be so courteous. I know you're not doing well right now. I heard that Qin Jishui swindled your company and money. You've stayed at home for so many years and haven't gone out to work, so I'm sure you don't have any savings on you. We used to know each other, so I can still afford to treat you to a meal, Lu Danqing said as she dug into her bag, looking like she was about to pay. But after a while, she frowned again. I only have a card. I originally wanted to give you 200 yuan to solve your livelihood problem. Xiang Jin's expression did not look too good. It wasn't that she didn't understand this kind of woman. She just felt that she was more capable than her now, so she wanted to show off in front of her to satisfy her vanity. Chapter 2:15. Xiang Jin glanced at Lu Danqing, shook her head, took out her wallet, and paid the bill. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not so poor that I need charity. In addition, maybe you talked too much just now, the makeup on your face is cracked. Lu Danqing was stunned, and quickly took out a mirror to look. Seeing that the makeup on her face was still the same, she suddenly snorted, and subconsciously blocked the way of Jing Yunzhao and Xiang Jin. Pretending to be fat, General Manager Xiang, you still look charming and beautiful. It's okay if you don't want me to help you. I know a lot of big bosses, how about I introduce them to you? Oh, by the way, do you still remember General Manager Wang? A few years ago, he pursued you but was rejected by you. I believe that if he sees you now, he will definitely be interested. You can take the opportunity to make a fortune. Lu Danqing pestered. Jing Yunzhao didn't see many people before, so when he saw this kind of woman, he was more curious than angry. Although this Lu Danqing was dressed in famous brands, she looked tacky when she wore them, like an ancient prostitute. She wasn't very tall, but she was wearing such high heels and had so much makeup on. She wasn't young anymore, but she still pretended to be a young girl. It made people feel a little nauseous when they heard it. At this time, Xiang Jin was a little speechless. Was her temperament now like a miserable woman who could only rely on men to help her? Lu Danqing said, and had already found General Manager Wang's business card, and handed it to Xiang Jin with a sympathetic face. At the same time, a man appeared behind Lu Danqing. His appearance was a little greasy and his beer belly was very ugly. He reached out and held Lu Danqing's waist as he called out, "Little darling," causing goosebumps to appear all over Jing Yunzhao's body. Baby, why don't you introduce them? Who are these two beauties? The man stared at Jing Yunzhao with a surprised face. These days, it was not easy to find a pure little girl. The one in front of him, even in terms of appearance, could be called the best in the world. Birds of a feather flocked together. When the man saw that Jing Yunzhao and Xiang Jin were hanging out with Lu Danqing, he naturally categorized them together with Lu Danqing. His gaze was lustful and unbridled. You're so annoying. Are you going to fall in love with that old thing? I just wanted to go back and give you a surprise. Lu Danqing leaned in the man's arms and said coquettishly. He was gloating inwardly. In the past, the people who pursued Xiang Jin were basically some rich young masters. They were rich and good-looking. At that time, she was very jealous when she saw so many people sending flowers to Xiang Jin every day. But now, her mood was better. Although it was a different starting point, in the end, wasn't Xiang Jin the same as her? She even had to sell her body. Her so-called self-esteem and modesty instantly crumbled in the face of money. At this time, Xiang Jin was also disgusted. She had not encountered this kind of thing for many years. The man stretched out his meaty hand towards Jing Yunzhao and said, "Little girl, shall I take you out to play?" Xiang Jin raised her eyebrows and looked at the man with a mocking smile. The other party was still a little surprised by Xiang Jin's reaction. Suddenly, a "Kacha" sound came from his outstretched hand. A wave of pain instantly enveloped his whole body. It was as if his fingers were broken. He immediately howled. Xiang Jin was amused. This person dared to touch Jing Yunzhao. She knew that Jing Yunzhao was definitely violent enough to deal with this kind of person. Every time she saw it, her admiration for Jing Yunzhao increased by 1 point. Chapter 2:16. Jing Yunzhao rubbed his wrist and sighed. He said to Xiang Jin, "Director Xiang, I'm still underage. It's better if we don't stay in such a foul place." Lu Danqing was stunned. Why did this girl call her Director Xiang? She called her Director Xiang out of respect, but in fact, she was deliberately provoking Xiang Jin to mock her. But this little girl, the next second, Xiang Jin nodded and accompanied Jing Yunzhao out. They got into a car. This car belonged to the company. It was convenient for business meetings. Although it wasn't very expensive, it was at least 1,000,000 yuan. Lu Danqing was a little dumbfounded. The car of the man beside her was only worth a few 100,000 yuan. He was only a company manager and not a big boss. But in her eyes, this was considered good. After all, she wasn't young anymore. It was impossible for her to find those young and promising people. She knew that. But what was wrong with Xiang Jin? Wasn't she cheated of her money by her husband and they were divorced? How could she have such a good car? Why are you in a daze? Hurry up and send me to the hospital. Lu Danqing was staring blankly at the back of the car when the man beside her roared. After Lu Danqing sent the man to the hospital, she became more and more upset. In the end, she turned on the computer and entered Xiang Jin's name. She thought that there wouldn't be any relevant information, but unexpectedly, Xiang Jin's introduction appeared on the interface. When she saw it, she was shocked and embarrassed. No wonder Xiang Jin didn't even look at her when she said so much. It turned out that her life wasn't as bad as she thought. She was as dazzling as she was 10 years ago. The deputy director of the new company, Yuling Wines. It was just a few words. The rest of the momentum was about Yuling Wines. But these few words were enough to make her unable to raise her head. She looked at the company's situation again and realized that it hadn't been established for long, but the market's expectations were surprisingly high. Moreover, the expert's evaluation was very good. It seemed to be the new wine company with the best prospects at the moment, Lu Danqing suddenly regretted. If she hadn't said those presumptuous words and was polite and respectful to Xiang Jin, would she have been able to work by Xiang Jin's side like 10 years ago? Although she would suffer some setbacks sometimes, to be honest, the treatment was still very good. And it would definitely be much better than her current job. Lu Danqing was so jealous that she tossed and turned all night. However, for Jing Yunzhao and Xiang Jin, this was just a small interlude, and they forgot about it in the blink of an eye. In the sanatorium, Jing Yunzhao finally met up with Xiang Jin's mother. After checking her pulse and other aspects of her condition, she was already 120% confident that she could cure her. However, she still needed to massage her acupoints for a period of time and then take some medicine. It would be impossible for her mother to fully recover by today. Jing Yunzhao wrote a prescription and taught Xiang Jin the massage method. Only then did he feel at ease and return to Huaning County. The summer vacation was over. On the first day of school, Jing Yunzhao, Su Chu, and Gan Jinchen walked to school together. As soon as they left the neighborhood, they saw a figure anxiously waiting for them. Wang Xianfang walked over with a face full of concern. "Xiao Yun, your dad and I know that you've started school, so we specially bought you a new set of clothes. I originally wanted to send it to you, but I don't know which unit you live in." As she said that, she stuffed the bag into Jing Yunzhao's hands. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen looked at Wang Xianfang in surprise. They felt a little strange. Could this be Qiao Weiman's new wife? But how could Qiao Weiman be so nice as to be willing to buy clothes for Jing Yunzhao? Could it be that he wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail Jing Yunzhao? Chapter 217. The two cast a surprised look at Jing Yunzhao, but Jing Yunzhao handed the clothes back. "I can't accept this, take it back and return it." She wasn't being polite to Wang Xinfang, but she didn't like to take advantage of others. If they had already confirmed their relationship, it would be normal to return the favor. Then she might accept Wang Xinfang's good intentions, but the problem was that the test results weren't out yet. Wang Xinfang's face turned pale, and she looked like she was about to collapse. "Xiao Yun, Mom doesn't have any other intentions, I just want to fulfill my responsibility as a mother. I haven't bought you a single piece of clothing in all these years. You're at the age where you should dress up well, Mom just wants you to be happy." After speaking, Wang Xinfang took out the clothes from the bag and gestured to Jing Yunzhao. "Look at how beautiful this dress is, Xiao Yun. Your skin is white, it will definitely match." The dress was pink with lace. This kind of sweet style didn't match Jing Yunzhao at all. With Jing Yunzhao's appearance and figure, she could wear any style of clothing, but her temperament was very cold. Even if it looked good in this dress, it wouldn't make people feel comfortable. If this dress was worn by Su Chu, perhaps it would bring out the best in each other. "Aunt Wang," Jing Yunzhao called out, and then said, "The style of your dress is quite cute, I believe your second daughter can wear it, so you should take it back. It's getting late, I still have to go to class." No, I bought this for you, you have to accept it." "Xiao Yun, don't worry, your two sisters definitely won't fight with you for anything, I'll talk to them nicely. When the test results are out, you can move back home on Saturday and Sunday. The family has prepared a separate room for you, you won't be wronged." Wang Xinfang hurriedly explained, and then said, "I know your grades are good, you're the most promising one in our family, study hard, I won't hold you back." After speaking, she stuffed the clothes back into Jing Yunzhao's hands, turned around, and ran away. That anxious figure seemed to be afraid that Jing Yunzhao would chase after her. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen were stunned. "Cousin. What does she mean? Why did you claim to be your mother?" Su Chu pointed at Wang Xinfang's back and asked. Gan Jinchen immediately pulled Su Chu. "Yunzhao, are you okay?" Even a fool could see that this woman and Qiao Weiman were not family. It was very likely that they were Jing Yunzhao's biological parents. No wonder Xiao Haiqing stammered when she called them yesterday. It turned out that she was worried that Jing Yunzhao would be in a bad mood because of his biological parents. I'm fine. Jing Yunzhao shook his head and turned back to the house to put the clothes away for the time being. If she didn't accept this thing, Wang Xinfang might come to the school later. She didn't want to make things more troublesome. Actually, Wang Xinfang and Jing Taijun were most likely related to her by blood. However, she didn't know why, but she didn't have much enthusiasm for them. She even subconsciously wanted to keep a distance from them. Jing Yunzhao sighed and went to the school. She didn't say anything along the way. A new semester, a new grade, but for Jing Yunzhao, there weren't many changes. Arts and science had already been chosen before her rebirth, and the first half of the first year of high school had been redivided into classes, so it was still the same. The students hadn't changed, and the homeroom teacher hadn't changed. At most, a few teachers had changed. Jing Yunzhao was still Teacher Qi's class representative. As soon as she arrived at the school, she was ordered by Teacher Qi to inspect her homework. However, what surprised Jing Yunzhao was that she didn't know when a love letter and breakfast were placed in her drawer. Chapter 218. Ever since Zhao Hongye dropped out of school, Jing Yunzhao's bad reputation had almost become a thing of the past. No one mentioned it anymore. Her grades were good and she looked good. Usually, there would be boys appearing at the door of the class, but there weren't many who dared to pass love letters so openly. Jing Yunzhao didn't react at all and casually placed the letter and breakfast on the table. Xiao Haiqing saw it and immediately snatched it. Wow! Yunzhao, your charm is really good. You received a love letter on the first day of school. This person must have been secretly in love with you for a long time. Xiao Haiqing shouted. She purposely raised her voice, mainly because she wanted to see Jing Yunzhao's embarrassed expression. However, Jing Yunzhao only raised her eyebrows and glanced at her. She was completely calm, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. Are you okay? You're not happy even after receiving a love letter. I'm going to suspect your gender. Xiao Haiqing said in surprise. She had also received love letters before, but they were usually written by bad boys because those shy boys didn't dare to get close to her. It was as if she was a virus that was contagious. Or it could be said that those people were afraid that she would beat them up if she was unhappy, so only those who could endure a beating dared to express their affection for her. But even if she was usually confident and bold, when she received a love letter, she would still be a little happy. Rejecting was one thing, but enjoying this kind of favor was another. She was a tyrannical flower, but no matter how tyrannical she was still a flower. Xiao Haiqing was beaming with joy, as if she had discovered something amazing. Jing Yunzhao was speechless and choked. There's no problem with my gender. Not everyone will be happy because of this kind of thing. In her previous life, she had lived to the age of 20. She was a real adult. Even if her body was still young, her heart was mature. How could she be excited because of a little boy's love letter? You're really boring. Let me help you see what's written in this love letter. Xiao Haiqing smiled mischievously and shook the love letter with a face full of curiosity. She didn't want those crooked people to covet their Yunzhao. A love letter represented a person's words and taste, so they had to be carefully examined. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, she saw that Jing Yunzhao did not refuse, so she opened the envelope. It was a white envelope with a red heart drawn on the seal. In the eyes of the two of them, it was a little childish. Looking at the letter again, it was pink. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips. The color that did not match Jing Yunzhao the most was pink. The other party was definitely stupid. Xiao Haiqing opened it and the corners of her mouth twitched. Suchu and Gon Jinchen behind her couldn't help but lean forward. Suddenly, they all had strange expressions on their faces, as if they had eaten a pile of dead flies. When Jing Yunzhao saw their expressions, he became curious. After a while, Xiao Haiqing looked at him sympathetically and began to read, "Dear Zhao, forgive me for my rudeness, because I feel that I really can't bear to miss you these days. I miss your pair of eyes that are as gentle as water, I miss your tender and alluring little lips, and your pure white skin that is so smooth and tender. Your gentle appearance floats in my mind every day, making me unable to extricate myself. I know that you must like me too. I can often feel your gaze on my body, and every time it makes my heart beat faster. Everything about you is so precious. I want to protect you in the palm of my hand, deep into my bones. There's not a moment when I don't want to hug you tightly in my arms and rub you fiercely." When he said this, Jing Yunzhao's face darkened. Chapter 219. Xiao Haiqing felt a little guilty. The first part of the love letter wasn't that disgusting, but the part that they couldn't accept was at the end. "You don't have to read it." Jing Yunzhao took the love letter with a gloomy face and continued to read it. "In the dark night, I fantasize about your pair of sparkling eyes, making me tense up all over my body, making me unable to release my emotions. I want to carve my love for you on my body, caressing it every day and night. You're so beautiful, so outstanding, so tempting. I've dreamt countless times that I have you by my side, under my body, in my heart. Your voice tugs at my heartstrings, making me go crazy for you." Rather than a love letter, it was more like a lewd and obscene image. Xiao Haiqing was still a little playful a moment ago, but now she was completely enraged, let alone Suchu and Gon Jinchen. In their hearts, Jing Yunzhao was clean and cold. Her character was like a person standing on the edge of a cliff, so quiet that she didn't attract dust. However, this so-called love letter was so disgusting that it made them want to vomit. Holding her in his arms and rubbing her wrongly, beside her and under her body, it was simply a fantasy. "I've read it. There's no signature at the bottom." Xiao Haiqing gritted her teeth and said. If she knew who wrote this love letter, she would beat him up until he was looking for his teeth on the ground. After Jing Yunzhao finished reading it, her embarrassment turned into anger. Rather than saying it was a confession of love, it was better to say it was a humiliation. Moreover, at this age, most people's love letters were pure and beautiful, unlike this one, which was filled with lust and lust. It was impossible for her not to be angry. Jing Yunzhao had already eaten breakfast. She didn't intend to use the food sent by that person. At this time, Xiao Haiqing was even more depressed. She felt that the food made her sick. Without saying anything, she got up and threw the breakfast into the garbage. "It's shameful to waste it. God should just strike me to death. Anyway, it's better than being disgusted to death," Xiao Haiqing said. After a while, Jing Yunzhao put away the so-called love letter. She was not stupid. It was useless to hand this thing to the teacher. After all, they did not know who wrote the love letter. In the end, Teacher Qi would at most give a few warnings in class. In the end, others might think that she was too good at tattling or even making a fuss over nothing. As for ignoring it, that was even more impossible. "Haiqing, why did you throw it away? I really want to eat it." Jing Yunzhao held his breath for a while, causing his face to turn red. Then, he stared at Xiao Haiqing with an embarrassed attitude. Xiao Haiqing was stunned. She wished she could hang a question mark above her head to express her puzzlement. "Isn't that?" Xiao Haiqing stuttered, but the moment she opened her mouth, she remembered Jing Yunzhao's personality and suddenly laughed out loud. "Oh, I get it. Yunzhao, I didn't expect you to have such a strong taste. Her reaction was not as quick as Jing Yunzhao's. Why did he write a love letter? It couldn't be so simple as to express his feelings of longing, right? Jing Yunzhao's bashful expression made her feel a little uncomfortable, but anyone with eyes could tell that Jing Yunzhao's expression meant like. If that person was from their class, they probably wouldn't just sit by and watch, right? When the time came, wouldn't that person stand up for her? It was just a pity that Jing Yunzhao had to suffer. To make such an expression for such a disgusting thing, it was really a big sacrifice. The only consolation was that Jing Yunzhao's current expression was really too cute. It was the first time she had seen it. Chapter 220. Jing Yunzhao blushed and carefully put away the love letter. Su Chu, who was slow to react, felt wronged. She wasn't as smart as Xiao Haiqing, and she wasn't able to read Jing Yunzhao's mind like Xiao Haiqing. She looked at the two's strange behavior and then looked at her cousin, Gan Jinchen, who didn't care. She was stunned. How could her god cousin like that disgusting classmate who wrote love letters? It couldn't be true, right? Su Chu was worried for a few classes. When Jing Yunzhao wasn't around, she carefully moved in front of Xiao Haiqing and grabbed her arm to act cute. Xiao Haiqing, cousin can't really like that disgusting guy, right? Xiao Haiqing was amused. Su Chu was really stupid. Gan Jinchen must have guessed Jing Yunzhao's intention, but he didn't explain it to Su Chu. He was obviously teasing her. However, looking at Su Chu's anxious pout, Xiao Haiqing also showed some mischievous interest. Her eyes flashed, and she spread her hands and said helplessly, "I can't help it. Yunzhao likes that kind of thing." You don't know, but Yunzhao was always absent-minded in class. If I didn't remind her in old cheese class, she definitely wouldn't be able to answer the questions. Xiao Haiqing's mouth was full of nonsense. The more she said, the more Su Chu's heart jumped. There was only one word in her mind, and that was, "It's over." She knew that her cousin was stubborn and had a strong temper. If she liked someone, no one could stop her. What if her cousin was eaten up by that disgusting hooligan? Su Chu also received a lot of love letters, but those love letters were different from Jing Yunzhao's. They were simple and clean, and never made her feel disgusted. At this time, Su Chu's face was gray. When Jing Yunzhao came back, her eyes were like a poor abandoned animal. She looked at her as if she was hoping that she would stop at the edge of the cliff and turn back to the shore. Xiao Haiqing and Gan Jinchen were very happy. Because of the strong request of these two bad friends, Jing Yunzhao didn't explain. She had to say, looking at Su Chu's appearance, her heart was warm and she wanted to laugh. This kind of prank between friends really made people happy. 3 days in a row. Food and love letters could be seen in Jing Yunzhao's drawer each time. It was just that every time, Jing Yunzhao would only look at those breakfasts with pity, acting as if she couldn't bear to eat them and wanted to put them away. Finally, on the 4th morning, Jing Yunzhao saw the name in the love letter. Looking at the name, the corner of Jing Yunzhao's mouth curved into a sinister smile. So the grandson who had been disgusting her for the past few days was him. What a surprise! Xiao Haiqing was more concerned about this matter than her. When she saw the name, she immediately became angry. If it wasn't for Jing Yunzhao holding her back, she would have rushed up and kicked him. "I'll do it myself," Jing Yunzhao said coldly, making people feel an inexplicable chill. God knows how nauseous she had been these past few days. Because of these unrestrained words, her appetite hadn't been very good these days. Moreover, she felt weak all over if she didn't do anything to vent her anger. Now that this piece of shit had delivered himself to her door, if she didn't beat him half to death, would she be able to relieve the anger she had been suppressing for the past few days? Early in the morning, Jing Yunzhao's face was colder than the cold winter sun. After putting away the love letter as usual, she stood up with a book that wasn't heavy. She turned around and walked back. Chapter 221. Jing Yun Zhao took one step at a time. Her thin and weak yet arrogant figure was extremely eye-catching. Her lips were lightly pursed, as cold as usual, but there seemed to be a faint smile on her face. Although this smile made people shudder, in Jiang Xiao's eyes, it was something to be happy about. The first love letter was actually just to test Jing Yun Zhao. The words used in the letter were all found on the internet when he wrote a love letter to Qiao Hongye. He felt that only those words would be enough to express his feelings towards Qiao Hongye. Since no one would know anyway, he changed the name of the letter and secretly sent it to Jing Yun Zhao. He didn't hold much hope, but he didn't expect Jing Yun Zhao to be so easy to coax. After that, he carefully copied a few more. He was even a little excited, so the words he used became more daring. Anyway, Jing Yun Zhao was an emotional person. The more explicit the words, the more she would like it. Sure enough, the truth was as he expected. Today, he finally wrote his name on it. Yun Zhao. Jiang Xia gently opened his mouth. He felt that Jing Yun Zhao must have used the excuse of asking him for advice to get close to him. Qiao Hongye dropped out of school and he Jiaxi returned to Ning City. Therefore, Jiang Xia's desk mate was now Tang Zihua. Tang Zihua looked gentle, but in reality, his personality was very cold. He usually didn't care about Jiang Xia, but now that he saw Jing Yun Zhao staring at Jiang Xia, he couldn't help but feel strange. Tang Zihua, move aside first, Jing Yun Zhao said. Tang Zihua's health wasn't good. If he was affected, she would have to think of a way to treat him. The boy was stunned. He looked behind her and saw Xiao Haiqing teasingly crooking her finger at him. Only then did he get up in confusion and walked over to Xiao Haiqing and the others. Xiao Haiqing, stop her. Cousin can't be going to confess to that disgusting man, right? Suchu was anxious and said in a low voice. Tang Zihua was shocked when he heard this. What's going on? Disgusting man. Was she referring to Jiang Xia? That's impossible, right? With Jing Yun Zhao's personality, how could she fall for someone like Jiang Xia, who he thought was useless and even somewhat thick-skinned? Alright, don't say anything and don't ask anything. Just watch, Xiao Haiqing said with a smile. After saying that, they stared at him with their eyes wide open. Yun Zhao, please sit down first. Jiang Xia's attitude was very friendly. Jing Yun Zhao hadn't spoken to Jiang Xia for quite some time. If it wasn't for his memories from his previous life, he would have forgotten about this person. Jiang Xia was pursuing her. How could she not know whose idea it was? No matter if it was the previous life or the current life, Jiang Xia's infatuation with Qiao Hongye had never changed. In the previous life, Qiao Hongye only needed to say one word and Jiang Xia would pester her relentlessly, pretending to be a good man. In this life, his perverted index had actually evolved. They were still in school, yet he could still be so savage. You, stand up. Jing Yun Zhao did not listen to him and said coldly. Jiang Xia frowned in dissatisfaction. But the little bit of expectation in his heart still encouraged him to do as Jing Yun Zhao said. Jiang Xia's sunny smile looked extremely warm, but just as he stood up from his seat, he saw Jing Yun Zhao holding the textbook in her hand and raised her hand to slap him. Paw! The textbook directly slapped half of Jiang Xia's face red. Using her hand. Jing Yun Zhao sneered. She disliked dirty things. She didn't deal with Jiang Xia before because she felt that he was ordered by Qiao Hongye in the previous life. In reality, there wasn't any deep hatred between them. Although she hated him, he didn't have the time to do anything to let her down. So even if he still came looking for trouble in this life, she only punished him lightly and didn't target him like she did Xiao Hongye. But there was a limit to this kind of tolerance. Chapter 222. As soon as Jing Yunzhao made his move, the crisp sound of the slap attracted the attention of all the students. Each and every one of them was shocked beyond words. Jing Yunzhao, are you crazy? Jiang Xia shouted. He felt a burning pain on his face and his ears were ringing. Paw! Jing Yunzhao raised his hand and slapped him again from another angle. In an instant, the red marks on both sides of his face were symmetrical. Jing Yunzhao raised his head and snorted coldly, "You'll know in a moment whether I'm crazy or not." After she finished speaking, she slapped Jiang Xia's face like a torrential downpour. The book wasn't thick, but it was extremely painful. The problem was that he was currently trapped in his seat by Jing Yunzhao, so he had no way of getting out. Not long after, bang sound was heard. Jiang Xia fell to the ground sullenly. He screamed and tried to crawl under the table, but just as he stretched his head out a little, Jing Yunzhao dragged him back like a mouse. Immediately, he was pushed against the wall and all the books on his table were thrown at him. Jing Yunzhao's violent behavior made all the students in the class dumbfounded. Their class hadn't been established for long, but this wasn't the first time they saw Jing Yunzhao hit someone. Who was it last time? It was Jing Yunzhao's adoptive father and Xiao Hongye. They were beaten so badly, but those two deserved it. But what did Jiang Xia do? He actually provoked Jing Yunzhao to this extent. If this continued, wouldn't he be beaten to death? The class monitor, Qi Daong, hurriedly ran over to mediate the fight, but unfortunately, he was pulled over by Xiao Haiqing. "Class monitor, are you sure you want to go? I promise you, our Yunzhao is too angry right now. He might not be able to recognize you. If you go in, we won't be able to save you." Xiao Haiqing reminded him with a smile. Qi Daong couldn't help but shiver. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Jing Yunzhao. Is there a problem with his mental state? Could it be that he would act up regularly?" This was too frightening. Look at how badly Jiang Xia was beaten up. No. Class monitor Qi Deyong immediately shook his head. Now wasn't the time to be tangled up in this matter. Qi Deyong glanced at the pitiful Jiang Xia, then looked at the fierce Jing Yunzhao. In the next second, he ran towards the office. At this moment, Jiang Xia's face was already swollen beyond recognition. Blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was already in a daze. He used to be quite handsome, but his original appearance was nowhere to be found. Jing Yunzhao did not hold back at all. Every punch and kick left Jiang Xia unable to endure. In less than 2 minutes, Teacher Qi rushed over with a group of people. He was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. When he saw this scene, he almost fainted. Of course, although he was a teacher and was worried about Jiang Xia, as an elder, he was even more worried about Jing Yunzhao. Even if she continued to go to school in the future, there would definitely be a stain on her record. "Stop! Jing Yunzhao, stop right now!" Teacher Qi roared. Because he used too much strength, he coughed a few times. When Jing Yunzhao heard Teacher Qi's voice, she stopped. She stepped back, took out a tissue from her bag, and wiped her hands and shoes. She looked like a psychopath who had just killed someone and was obsessed with cleanliness. It was simply hair-raising. Teacher Qi panted a few times. Jing Yunzhao walked forward and said, "Teacher, don't be angry. I'll cooperate. Whatever you say, I'll do it." Before she took action, she had to think of a way to protect herself. So what if she beat someone up? Jiang Xia asked for it. He was still gasping for breath. Moreover, she would at most make him suffer a little, but she wouldn't hurt his internal organs. She wasn't stupid enough to push herself into a fire pit. Chapter 223. From Teacher Chi's point of view, it was as if he had only seen the real Jing Yunzhao today. As her class representative, Teacher Chi had paid quite a bit of attention to this little girl who had no parents to care for her. However, every time he paid attention to her, he felt very gratified. This was because Jing Yunzhao was very sensible and well-behaved in school. Although she was estranged from many of her classmates, she still had her own circle of friends. She never caused trouble, and although her grades were good, she was not inflexible. However, after seeing her today, this Jing Yunzhao's personality was the complete opposite of her appearance. She was thin and weak and looked very fragile. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed that Jing Yunzhao was the one who did it. Jing Yunzhao. What happened to you? Teacher Chi said angrily. Cooperate. At this point in time, was this a problem that could be solved with cooperation? Jiang Xia was beaten up like a pig's head, and the Jiang family would definitely know about it. When that time came, would they let her off? Teacher Chi, I wouldn't hit someone for no reason. In the past, there were so many people spreading rumors about me, and I could still tolerate it. Now that I'm so ruthless towards Jiang Xia, it's enough to prove that Jiang Xia did something that I couldn't control. Since he's already like this, Teacher Chi, I'll have to trouble you to contact the Jiang family. If there's any responsibility, I'll bear it. Jing Yunzhao stood straight, her voice crisp and her attitude decisive. When Teacher Chi heard this, he was so angry that his beard curled up. What should I say? Sigh, send Jiang Xia to the infirmary first. Jing Yunzhao, come with me. Bear the responsibility. With such a serious injury, compensation was a given. In addition to compensation, the Jiang family would definitely ask Jing Yunzhao to drop out of school. Otherwise, how could they appease their anger? Teacher Chi was fuming. He was already thinking about how to talk to the Jiang family later. If Jing Yunzhao was expelled, it would be a pity. Jing Yunzhao followed Teacher Chi to a place outside the classroom where there was no one else. Teacher Chi then said, "Tell me clearly, why did you beat someone up?" "It's not a big deal, it's just that Jiang Xia disgusted me," Jing Yunzhao replied. "Don't tell me all this nonsense. I want to hear the real reason. Jiang Xia wasn't your desk mate, and he didn't do anything to you. How could he disgust you? Do you have any evidence?" Teacher Chi asked again. "Teacher Chi, I naturally have evidence." Jing Yunzhao took out one of the love letters. The content of this love letter was the least overboard of the three, but when Teacher Chi saw it, his face turned ashen. Teacher Chi was already old. He was a serious person and his personality was inevitably a little traditional. He had always disliked this kind of young romance. If it was outside the school, he would not be too disgusted, but in this school, Teacher Chi absolutely could not tolerate it. Therefore, when he read the contents of the love letter, he was so angry that he wanted to crawl into a hole and hide his face. This was his student. At such a young age, she actually wrote such explicit things. He had collected many love letters over the years, but this was the first time it was so serious. Fight. She deserved to be beaten. Teacher Chi was so angry that his hands were trembling. Keep it well. When Jiang Xia's parents come later, take this out. The Jiang family should also want to save face. Take this love letter and have a good chat with them. Teacher Chi could not be too explicit. If Teacher Chi had some sympathy for Jiang Xia a second ago, then at this moment, he could not wait to throw this shameless thing out of the school. Chapter 224. Teacher Chi also knew that the world was becoming more and more open. He couldn't possibly use the old rules to restrict these students. But this Jiang Xia was too much. If the Jiang family didn't give up and insisted on finding trouble with Jing Yunzhao, then as a teacher, he had the right to prevent students like Jiang Xia from continuing to stay in the class. "Thank you, teacher," Jing Yunzhao said sincerely to Teacher Chi. Although she didn't have good luck with her classmates, she had good luck with her elders. So what if she didn't have parents? She received a lot of benefits. Teacher Chi sighed and went back to inform the Jiang family's parents. Jiang Xia was sent to the infirmary while Jing Yunzhao continued with her lessons. After one lesson, a couple appeared at the entrance of the classroom. At this time, Jing Yunzhao was also called out. Jing Yunzhao had just stepped out of the classroom when the man raised his hand to slap her. Jing Yunzhao's gaze turned cold and he directly clamped down on the man's wrist. Subordinates should follow the example of their superiors. I finally know why Jiang Xia is like that. The man obviously didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to be so righteous. His expression became worse and worse. Jiang Xia's mother was a beautiful woman. She gave people a feeling of arrogance. "I've heard my son mention you before. Jing Yunzhao, right? I heard that this student of yours has always been restless. He messes around outside and likes to accuse others. I thought it was just a child playing around and didn't take it to heart. I didn't expect you to be so vicious and beat my son to such a state," the woman said. At this time, Jiang Xia's injury had already been bandaged. He hid behind the couple with a cowardly look. "Teacher Chi, I know this isn't something a teacher can handle. So I've already contacted your head teacher. If you don't expel this Jing Yunzhao today, don't blame me for making a big deal out of this," Father Jiang said angrily. The Jiang family was a relatively wealthy family. Jiang Xia's father opened a tea house in the county. The environment was tranquil, so the business was pretty good. Jiang Xia's mother opened a clothing store in the busiest commercial street in Huaning County. Although it wasn't a big business, the annual income wasn't low. In the tea house opened by Father Jiang, there were usually some big shots who liked peace and quiet who would go to take care of business. Over time, he also got to know quite a few capable people, so when he spoke, he was very confident. Jing Yunzhao let go of his hand, but at this time, he just calmly watched all of this. Since the dean was coming, he would just have to wait. After a while, the entrance of Class 1 became lively. The director was worried that it would cause a bad influence, so he invited them into the office. Even though Jing Yunzhao had no parents and no backing, she was still the undisputed number one in the whole school. She represented the school in all kinds of competitions and won awards. She could definitely be called the face of the school. This teaching director wasn't a muddle-headed person. He still wanted to put the truth first. "Director, what else is there to talk about? Let her parents compensate and then expel her from school." Father Jiang had a stomach full of anger. Teacher Chi's face was stern. "Jing Yunzhao didn't hit people for no reason. According to you, it's reasonable for her to hit people. What kind of teacher are you? You're always biased. I know Jing Yunzhao's grades are good, but our Jiang Xia isn't a bad child who can't be helped. Now that Jing Yunzhao made a mistake, why should he protect her?" Mother Jiang was furious. Jiang Xia's mother's voice was very shrill, so Teacher Chi didn't have a chance to interrupt. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. At this time, Jing Yunzhao took out the 3 letters that she had prepared. Chapter 225. The Jiang family's parents were stunned for a moment. They were a little confused, but when they saw the red heart drawn on the letter and recalled what their son had said to them before, they instantly understood. This was the love letter their son had written to Jing Yunzhao. Isn't it just a love letter? Who hasn't had their first awakening of love when they were in school? If everyone used violence to solve problems like you, wouldn't the school be in chaos? Moreover, our Jiang Xia was just joking with you. Why don't you take a look at your own status? You're just an uneducated child with no parents. How can our Jiang Xia like you? Mother Jiang scolded. Jing Yunzhao wasn't in a hurry. After she finished scolding, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "It seems like your family thinks that this matter isn't important. All right then, I agree to pay the compensation and transfer schools. However, at the same time, I will upload these 3 letters online and make the truth public. What do you think?" Teacher Qi originally thought that there was only 1 letter. Now that he saw 3, he was even more annoyed. However, Jiang Xiao's parents sneered and said, "Make it public then. Who hasn't written a love letter before? It was just a few confession letters. Could it be that there was something shameful inside?" No matter what, this Jing Yunzhao definitely couldn't be in the same school as their son. Who cares if she transferred or dropped out? Moreover, they could just wait until she transferred and talk to her new school's leader. Who knows, she might be kicked out in the blink of an eye. No. You can't make it public. Just as Jiang Xiao's parents were feeling smug, he suddenly shouted from behind them. The corners of his mouth twitched and he instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. "Son, are you okay?" Mother Jiang immediately asked out of concern. Her son was just too kind. She really didn't understand why the school would protect an uncivilized wild girl like Jing Yunzhao. Although she was pretty, she didn't have a good family background or character. Even if she got into a university, she might not have the money to go. Even if she did go to university, she might not be successful. Who knows, she might even become a rich man's mistress. What was the point of nurturing her? Unlike her son, who was good at everything. Jiang Xia waved his hand and said anxiously, "Mom, we can't let her make the love letter public. Son, you are too soft-hearted. If she wants to go public, then go public. What does it matter? Anyway, we just want her to pay up and make sure she can't stay in this school anymore. A rat's droppings spoil the whole pot of porridge. How can mother be at ease if a person like her is in the same school as you?" Mother Jiang earnestly advised. Hearing his mother's words, Jiang Xiao's face turned red, not knowing what to do. I can't let others see what I've written." Jiang Xia choked. Father Jiang snorted. "You're a real man. You're just chasing after a woman and writing some words of love. Others won't say anything if they see it." Jing Yunzhao had a mocking look on his face. If it was just an ordinary love letter, people would only admire it or gossip about it. Moreover, Jiang Xia was still young, so no one would take this kind of thing to heart. But Jiang Xia's love letter was different. Not to mention children, even adults wouldn't be able to accept it. The first letter was at least a little taboo and didn't dare to be too direct. But after that, especially the last one, the whole letter was filled with color. It was a long speech and was even more serious than those articles that were banned from reading online. Not only that, his name was signed at the bottom. Jiang Xiao's face was ashen. He suddenly grabbed his father's clothes and hurriedly said, "Dad. You can't make it public. If others find out, I'll really be finished." Chapter 226. Jiang Xia's shout stunned the Jiang family's parents. "Son, do you really like this Jing Yunzhao?" Mother Jiang asked in a daze. Naturally, she didn't think that there was anything shameful in her son's love letter. After all, in her heart, her son was modest, polite, cultured, and refined. He had good grades and a good personality. He was even the class monitor in the past. Although he wasn't anymore, he was still quite popular. A love letter written by such a smart and sensible child would definitely be of high standard. Because of this, his parents didn't have any intention of stopping the release of the love letter. But since her son was so against it, it meant that he was either shy or he really liked Jing Yunzhao. But if that was the case, her son definitely wouldn't be willing to let Jing Yunzhao drop out or transfer schools. Jiang Xiao's expression was ugly. After holding it in for a long time, he said, "This is what I wrote for her. I don't want others to see it." Mother Jiang had an expression that said, as expected. "Son, if you insist on getting into a relationship at such a young age, I won't object. But you have to open your eyes and look for one, right? Look at this Jing Yunzhao. What redeeming qualities does he have? This kind of person will only harm you." Mother Jiang said bitterly. Father Jiang was also very unhappy. After all, this Jing Yunzhao didn't have any intention of respecting his elders. He was too arrogant and unruly. At this moment, Teacher Qi was so angry that he had a headache. He's simply rotten wood that can't be carved. This child's own writing isn't clean, and he actually pushed the blame to Jing Yunzhao. "Headmaster, I really can't teach a child with this kind of character." It was said that parents were the first teachers of their children. This was absolutely true. He usually didn't like this Jiang Xia. The main reason was that this child's character wasn't very good. Although his grades were good, he was too arrogant. He seemed humble, but in reality, he was more or less self-righteous. For example, in class, he would often say things that were beneficial to himself. Also, behind his back, he liked to badmouth other students. Not all teachers like snitching students, especially someone like Jiang Xia. His nephew was the class monitor of this class, so he had a better understanding of the situation in the class. When he returned home, he would more or less spill the beans, such as who had a good relationship with whom, and what kind of problems had befallen a classmate. From his nephew, he had heard a lot about Jiang Xia making friends everywhere, but in reality, Jiang Xia had always mentioned the faults of those friends in front of him. One set of words in front of him and another set behind his back. At such a young age, he had already learned to be two-faced. How could he possibly like such a student? At this moment, Teacher Qi was angrily telling the truth. The Jiang parents were confused. "Teacher Qi, what do you mean by this?" Father Jiang immediately asked. "Just take a look for yourselves." Teacher Qi pointed at the love letter and said angrily. After Jing Yunzhao hit Jiang Xia, she made a copy of the 3 love letters in her office to prevent this family from acting shamelessly. She was currently holding the original in her hand and was handing over a copy of the letter to Jiang Xia. The 3 love letters were passed around by the director and the Jiang family's parents. The director's face alternated between red and green as he looked at the letter. He couldn't describe what he was feeling in his heart. The Jiang parents' faces also changed greatly. Mother Jiang shook her head repeatedly. "This is definitely not written by my son." Her son was so obedient and sensible. How could he write something like this? "Whether it's true or not, you can ask your son." Jing Yunzhao shouted coldly. Jiang Xiao's body trembled. When he wrote the letter, he didn't think that there would be such a day. At first, he didn't dare to write his name. However, after confirming that Jing Yunzhao liked it, he felt a sense of excitement in his heart, so he signed his name. But now, it seemed that Jing Yunzhao was purposely tricking him. Chapter 227. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang looked at their son suspiciously. They thought that he would deny it, but now, seeing his guilty and scared face, they suddenly understood. No wonder he wouldn't let Jing Yunzhao spread this love letter no matter what. "What do you want?" Jing Yunzhao, although my son wrote something he shouldn't have, you shouldn't have beaten him up like this. Mr. Jiang was still very rational. He knew that he couldn't force things at this time. It was best for both sides to reconcile, otherwise, no one would benefit. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang, weren't you scolding me just now? What's wrong? Why are you suddenly being reasonable now? Jing Yunzhao snorted. When we saw Xiao Xia being beaten up like this, of course we were anxious. Jing Yunzhao, both sides are at fault here. Mr. Jiang continued. When Jiang Xiao's father first arrived at school, his face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for Jing Yunzhao blocking him with her hand, she would have definitely been slapped by this man. After causing a ruckus, now he wants to solve the problem peacefully. It was too late. Jing Yunzhao wasn't worried about compensation or expulsion. She had a reason for beating him up and held the moral high ground. As long as this love letter was spread, the one who would be criticized would definitely be Jiang Xia. Perhaps others would even praise her for resisting such a malicious pursuit. Jing Yunzhao held the love letter in his hand and flipped it back and forth. With a casual expression, he said, I don't think I did anything wrong. If I were to do it again, I would hit him even harder. I'm still an underage child. Your family's Jiang Xia gave me such a love letter. That's a visual insult. I feel that my soul has suffered a huge blow. From today onwards, I will be disgusted with men because of this. I have a feeling that I don't want to have any contact with men for the rest of my life. Therefore, I feel that this matter has seriously affected my future life. Who knows, I might not even be able to marry and have children like normal people. Oh, right. When he handed over the love letter, my desk mates and friends didn't know that there was such a filthy thing inside, so everyone read it together. They must have suffered a huge blow. Also, with so many people reading this love letter, does this count as spreading obscenity? Jing Yunzhao's words were spoken in a soft and gentle tone, but they were like a 1,000-pound hammer that smashed into the hearts of the Jiang family members. Father Jiang's face was ashen. He knew very well what the consequences would be if others found out that his son had written such a thing. If things got out of hand, the school would definitely not tolerate him. Now was the era of the rise of the internet. Once the news spread on the internet, the impact would be even more serious. In the future, no matter where his son went, he would be guided by others. It would be very difficult for him to find a good school to continue his studies. Moreover, even his father felt that the things he had written were somewhat unacceptable, let alone others. Even if it was normal for a person to express it in such a way, in the eyes of others in the future, Jiang Xia would be seen as a mentally unhealthy child. They might even think that he was a pervert. Therefore, this matter could be either light or heavy. Everything depended on Jing Yunzhao's attitude. Jing Yunzhao, what are you trying to do? Just say it all at once. What will it take for you to return this love letter to us? Father Jiang took a deep breath and tried his best to restrain his anger as he spoke to Jing Yunzhao. At this moment, he had no choice but to beg. Mother Jiang felt the contrast between reality and reality. Her body swayed and her eyes turned red. The gaze she used to look at Jing Yunzhao was filled with hatred and anger. She really felt like she was holding back her anger. It was clearly this wild brat who seduced her son to write such a thing and even beat him until he was beyond recognition. Why was it that in the end, not only did she not receive any punishment, she even had to turn around and beg for forgiveness? Chapter 228. Jing Yunzhao leisurely folded the love letter and put it in his pocket. He looked up at the family of three. It's not impossible to get this love letter, Jing Yunzhao said bluntly. He paused and continued, but as long as you agree to my request. Say it. Father Jiang gritted his teeth. Jiang Xia, I never believed that you really liked me, so please tell me the truth. Why did you write me a love letter? Jing Yunzhao asked, even though he already knew the answer. Jiang Xia's face paled. Qiao Hongye's face flashed across his mind. She was so gentle and pitiful. She would never be as aggressive as Jing Yunzhao, beating him up like a madman. He turned his head away and refused to say anything. Look, your precious son is not cooperating at all. Jing Yunzhao laughed, but there was an inexplicable chill in his laughter that made people unable to relax. Father Jiang was also angry. He was in the tea house business, and his living environment was relatively quiet. He boasted that his character was different from others, unlike those businessmen in other industries who reeked of money. In his eyes, he was a scholarly businessman, but now he was being slapped in the face by his son. Slap. He slapped Jiang Xia's head. You unfilial son, are you trying to anger me to death? Hurry up and say it. Hearing Jing Yunzhao's words, his son's way of doing things was taught by someone else. That person was simply despicable. If he knew who that person was, he would definitely not let him off. Jiang Xia was stunned for a moment. He had always been pampered since he was young. His parents had never treated him like this. But at the same time, he felt scared. He thought for a while and said softly, It's Qiao Hongye. I like Qiao Hongye. Jing Yunzhao, the one I like has always been Qiao Hongye, but she told me that you like me. She said that she had let you down, so she begged me to pursue you. If I don't pursue you, she will ignore me in the future. When he said this, Jiang Xia's father wished he could kick his stupid son to death. He pursued her just because she asked him to. Did he have any guts? Also, the other party obviously looked down on his son and even deliberately played with him. Jiang Xia, on the other hand, went along with her wishes. Idiot. Stupid donkey. You heard that. Jing Yunzhao laughed mockingly. 2 seconds later, he looked at Father Jiang and said directly, Your son was instructed by someone to cheat on my feelings. Isn't that right? The corners of Mr. Jiang's mouth twitched, and he felt aggrieved. Compensate me, Jing Yunzhao threw down another 3 words. Jing Yunzhao's matter-of-fact attitude couldn't help but remind people of the arrogance of Father and Mother Jiang when they first arrived at school. This was clearly revenge. Teacher Qi didn't know what to say. Should she let people off whenever possible? Although he was old, he wasn't that stupid. Fortunately, this girl was smart and imposing. Otherwise, such a good seedling would be gone. As for Jiang Xia, although he was also a seedling, his roots were spoiled. How much do you want? Father Jiang choked, and Mother Jiang felt her head buzzing. How much do I need? Don't worry, it's not a lot. 50,000 yuan for psychological damage. Also, I'll let bygones be bygones. As for this love letter, you guys decide what to do with it. With such good literary talent, it can be considered an epic work. How much would it be worth in the market? Oh, right, don't say that I'm extorting you. I'm a coward and can't stand being scared. Jing Yunzhao said matter-of-factly, as if he wasn't threatening anyone. The head of teaching was a little confused. He didn't know if he should stop this matter. After all, this was indeed extortion. But if he really stopped it, it was hard to say if Jing Yunzhao would resent him. In any case, the Jiang family would definitely hate him to death. Also, it was best if this matter could be resolved perfectly. Otherwise, if word got out, it wouldn't be good for the school. Chapter 229. Settling this in private was beneficial to both parties. The Jiang family's parents gritted their teeth. They were angry at Jing Yunzhao for asking for an exorbitant price, but they were even angrier that Jiang Xia was caught red-handed. If Jiang Xia didn't write his name, then as long as they didn't admit it, these 3 letters wouldn't have anything to do with them. Now, not only did they fail to get the person, they even lost their own lives. The Jiang family's parents were frustrated, and as the person involved, Jiang Xia's mood was even worse. He wasn't stupid. At first, he didn't even think of writing his name. If it wasn't for Jing Yunzhao's happy face, he wouldn't have been fooled. Moreover, he didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to be so daring. He actually beat him up in front of everyone and even took this thing out to threaten him. After all, if this love letter were to spread, he would be finished, but Jing Yunzhao's reputation wouldn't be any better. However, he didn't know that Jing Yunzhao was already prepared for a long battle. She was also surprised that Jiang Xia couldn't help but confess after 3 days. However, it wasn't hard to understand. Jiang Xia had always been self-righteous. Not only was he narcissistic, he also liked to judge others by his own standards. When he saw how she looked when she received the love letter, he probably felt that his literary charm was irresistible. At this moment, the Jiang family's parents were hesitant. After a while, they finally made up their minds. Jing Yunzhao, don't be too greedy. 50,000 yuan for psychological damage is too much. We can't agree to it. How about this, we'll give you a total of 30,000 yuan. Hand over the love letter, Father Jiang said. The Jiang family didn't lack money, but this money shouldn't be spent like this. Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows. Impossible. Don't be greedy. Otherwise, you won't get a single cent. Father Jiang said angrily. Whether I can get this money or not isn't that important to me. However, it's different for your son. I still have to go to class, so I can only give you 10 minutes to consider. If you still aren't willing, then forget it, Jing Yunzhao said. Father Jiang looked like he wanted to eat Jing Yunzhao alive. He was angry and pained. He was a businessman. How could he not understand Jing Yunzhao's intentions? 50,000 yuan was just compensation for emotional distress. If she wanted the love letter, she would have to give her 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan was enough for Jiang Xia to go to a good school in Ning City. However, there was no way to restore his reputation. Even after a few years or decades, this love letter would become something that Jiang Xia would be ashamed to mention. When Father Jiang saw his son's terrified and pleading gaze, no matter how angry he was in his heart, he could only swallow that sullen feeling. In the end, he said with a sullen face, 100,000 yuan at most. If you're still unwilling, then we'll go our separate ways. I'll bring my son to get his injuries examined. When the time comes, you'll be the one to compensate. Deal. Jing Yunzhao smiled cheerfully. She had earned 100,000 for nothing and even beat up Jiang Xia. She had really profited. After both parties had agreed, Jing Yunzhao didn't hand over the love letter immediately. Instead, she waited for the Jiang family's parents to transfer the money to her before making them sign a guarantee that Jiang Xia's injury had nothing to do with her and that they wouldn't hold her responsible. Only then did she give up. After the Jiang family's parents received the love letter, they burned it on the spot just in case. Only then did they angrily bring Jiang Xia home to recuperate. This family of 3 was simply sullen to the extreme. Especially when they saw how steady Jing Yunzhao was in protecting their interests, they felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on their hearts. It was unbearable. The Jiang family's parents couldn't vent their anger on their son. Naturally, they found Chao Hongye. Chapter 230. Chao Family. Chao Weimin sat crookedly in front of the dining table. He picked up a peanut and threw it into his mouth, chewing loudly. His breath reeked of alcohol. Chao Hongye was tidying up her dried clothes. Seeing her somewhat rough fingers, she curled her lips. She really didn't know when this kind of life would end. There were many girls in town who dropped out of school early. Although they weren't old, there were still some who got married a few years later. Today, her father looked at her strangely. She didn't know what he was thinking. While she was busy, Chow Weiman received a phone call. Suddenly, he smiled apologetically. After hanging up, he suddenly rushed into her room. Quickly go and prepare a few new dishes. Also, change your clothes. There will be guests coming later. Don't embarrass me. Chow Weiman threw down a sentence that didn't allow any rebuttal. Chow Hongye was very smart. When she was alone with Chow Weiman at home, she never dared to resist. She knew what kind of person her father was. She wasn't Chow Zizhou. She wasn't a man. She didn't have the qualifications for Chow Weiman to be polite and gentle to her. Chow Hongye obediently prepared a few dishes according to Chow Weiman's request. She changed into her beautiful clothes. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. The person who entered was a middle-aged man about the same age as Chow Weiman. His body of fat piled up his eyes into slits. His face was somewhat pockmarked, and his smile was lewd. Chow Hongye shuddered. She already understood what Chow Weiman wanted to do. Chow Weiman always felt that she was the one who ruined the Chow family's business, so he didn't like her at all. In addition, her reputation wasn't good now. If she didn't carefully avoid him, who knows how many times she would have been beaten by him. He had previously said that since she didn't want to go to school, then she should get married early and have children. However, he knew that there wasn't a single person in town who would take a fancy to her. So he had always been just saying it. But now that this man suddenly appeared, it was obvious that Chow Weiman found him. The other party looked at her with an expression that said he was determined to have her. Chow Weiman was her biological father. She wasn't Jing Yunzhao, that bastard child. How could he treat her like this? Quick, pour some wine for your brother Qian. Chow Weiman snorted. Brother Qian. Chow Hongye was extremely uncomfortable. This person was obviously old enough to be her father. That man with the surname Qian sat down and waited for Chow Hongye to come forward with a look of enjoyment. Chow Hongye's legs felt like they were filled with lead. She dawdled for a long time before she finally walked over. Just as she stepped forward, that man with the surname Qian pinched her waist, of Hongye's, Chow Hongye. Big brother, Chow's. Of Chow, brother Chow. Of Chow Weiman. The man with the surname Qian said, then changed his tone and said, this time, I'll give you a share of the ship. Invest some money in it, and I'll definitely not forget about you when we make money. Our Ningxiang town is surrounded by mountains and rivers, and the water is filled with gold. Many people are eagerly waiting to buy our ship. Don't worry, we'll make huge profits with a small investment. With one sentence, Chow Hongye understood. Chow Weiman was going crazy thinking about money. Every 2 to 3 days, he would think about investing. He had already lost a lot of money. Now, in order to get involved in the business of the big ship, he actually sold her. Although she was protected by the law at her age, no one cared about this kind of small town. Her former junior high school classmates even held banquets and got married right after school. But what should she do now? Why couldn't she follow this old man for money that didn't belong to her? Chow Hongye's heart was in a mess. Looking at the two men in front of her drinking wine, she suddenly thought of someone. Jiang Xia. Jiang Xia had deep feelings for her. He would definitely help her. Chapter 231. Chow Hongye wasn't just thinking about it. She clenched her teeth and kept pouring wine into their mouths. Not long after, Qiao Weimin and Qian Xia were already drunk and unconscious. In the next moment, she rummaged through their bodies and found more than $1,000. She took the money and rushed out of the house without another word, heading straight for the county. Coincidentally, right after Qiao Hongye left, Jiang Xiao's parents found the Qiao family. Qiao Hongye didn't close the door when she left, so the Jiang family's parents directly walked in. They happened to see two grown men lying drunk on the table, and all the excuses they had prepared to say now couldn't come out at all. Especially after seeing such a scene, they felt that this family must be scoundrels. They didn't want to cause trouble, so they turned around and headed back to the county. Qiao Hongye was the white moonlight in Jiang Xiao's heart. When he received Qiao Hongye's call for help, he agreed without thinking. With an unrecognizable face, he rented a house near the Jiang family. The house's environment wasn't very good, and it was very remote and hard to find. It was just a house, and it was a private house. He didn't need any documents, and didn't even need to sign a contract. A month's rent was less than $200. Jiang Xia, who was brought home to recuperate, was still a little sad. But now that Qiao Hongye appeared, he became proud again. Although the house wasn't good and couldn't be considered a golden house to hide a mistress, he still had a feeling that Qiao Hongye belonged to him from now on. He became high-spirited. He even wanted to tell Qiao Hongye that when he wrote those love letters, he only thought of Qiao Hongye. It was a pity that the love letters were burned. Otherwise, he really wanted to let Qiao Hongye see them. Qiao Hongye's departure directly tricked Qiao Weimin. If that Qian Xia didn't get the little girl he liked, then it was fine. But his wallet was emptied, so he made a fuss. For the sake of his great investment, Qiao Weimin naturally coaxed him like he was his ancestor. Not only did he return the money, he also repeatedly promised that he would definitely send Qiao Hongye over to him. Only then did he understand. However, Qiao Hongye never appeared. Qiao Weimin had no choice but to panic. He thought about it and called the police. A missing person was considered a big matter. Some people in the town who knew Qiao Hongye had provided clues, so after some investigation, they could only confirm that Qiao Hongye had gone to the county town. As for where she went, they could only slowly search for it. Jing Yunzhao and Qiao Hongye's relationship wasn't shallow, so the police naturally found her. Ever since his rebirth, Jing Yunzhao had seen the police several times. He couldn't help but find it ridiculous. However, the faces of these police officers were much better than those prison guards. Someone saw you and Qiao Hongye meet with their own eyes, but she disappeared afterwards. Jing Yunzhao, we hope that you can cooperate with the investigation. As long as you tell us the truth and don't break the law, we won't make things difficult for you. The policeman's face was solemn. Jing Yunzhao wanted to cry but had no tears. This was simply an unexpected disaster. But after thinking about it, Jing Yunzhao immediately opened her mouth. Who said so? Jiang Xia or Qiao Zizhou? Jiang Xia was no longer her classmate. He rested at home for a few days before coming to class. However, he didn't look like he had suffered a setback. As for Qiao Zizhou, Jing Yunzhao rarely saw this former brother of hers. He was different from Qiao Hongye. He was a bit of a male chauvinist and didn't care about women at all. No matter how much she quarreled with Qiao Hongye, Qiao Zizhou would only look at her with disdain. In the past, other than mocking and ridiculing her or forcing her to do some housework, he didn't do anything in secret. Jing Yunzhao knew that it wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he didn't like it. Chapter 232. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, she looked at the policeman's expression and knew that she had guessed correctly. As expected, it was one of these two people. It couldn't be Qiao Zizhou. He was a person who cared about his face, so it could only be Jiang Xia. However, thinking about Jiang Xiao's condition these few days, Jing Yunzhao laughed faintly. Can you believe Jiang Xiao's words? Uncle Policeman, I advise you to investigate Jiang Xiao. He and Qiao Hongye have a close relationship. If Qiao Hongye ran away from home, the person most likely to seek shelter from is him. You really don't know where Qiao Hongye went? The policeman still didn't believe her. That's right. Jing Yunzhao confirmed. Just as Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, a couple walked up the stairs. When they saw the policeman standing in front of Jing Yunzhao, they immediately rushed up. What's going on? Why are you looking for our family's eldest daughter? She wouldn't commit a crime. Wang Xianfang immediately said. Jing Taijun's eyebrows sank. He quickly passed a few cigarettes over. Children don't know any better. If there's any problem, you can talk to us adults. Don't worry, we're just here to understand the situation. It's not that there's a problem with this child. Little classmate, no matter what, if you have any news, you have to inform us immediately. It's not safe for Qiao Hongye to be alone outside. You two used to be sisters, so you should help if you can, right? The policeman politely reminded her. After that, he didn't say anything else. Jing Yunzhao looked at the file in Jing Taijun's hand and looked at his attitude. She didn't need to look at it to know the result of the test. The couple waited outside for a while. After school in the afternoon, Jing Yunzhao accompanied the two to a nearby restaurant. She opened the file and took a look. Indeed. It was in accordance with the law of heredity. The probability of paternity was greater than 0. 99.99. This also meant that they were father and daughter. Jing Yunzhao had mixed feelings for a moment. She had thought of this result before, but when she saw it, she didn't know how to face it. Especially when she thought of how miserable she had been in her previous life. Now that she saw them, she felt even more speechless. A child who was abandoned. That was not a nice word to use. Xiao Yun, it's all good now. Our family is finally reunited. You don't know how much Mom cried all these years. Wang Xinfang said as she tugged on Jing Yunzhao's hand. Jing Yunzhao's hand was unusually cold. If this was in her previous life, she would definitely cry tears of joy and go crazy because the Qiao family had treated her too badly, so badly that it made her feel despair. However, in this life, she had experienced all the pain and had even experienced death. The familial love at this time was too late for her and was too unfamiliar to her. But no matter what, it was impossible to deny that they were blood-related. Jing Yunzhao raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. He wanted to change his words, but when the word reached his mouth, it was abnormally heavy and he couldn't say it at all. It was a little awkward for a moment. It's okay, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid if you can't call it out now. Wang Xinfang said quickly. After saying this, the couple looked at each other. After a few seconds, Jing Taijun opened his mouth again. Xiao Yun, since we have recognized each other, I think you should accompany Mom and Dad back to Shuichang village. On one hand, you can visit the old ancestors' grave and pay your respects. On the other hand, there are still a few younger siblings in this family. You should meet them, right? Of course. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Tomorrow, I will ask the teacher for a leave of absence. When he said this, the two people opposite him were extremely happy. In addition, they didn't say anything during the meal. Jing Yunzhao still had classes in the afternoon and took the opportunity to escape. She couldn't bear the gaze of this pair of parents. But once she left, Wang Xinfang let out a sigh of relief. I have never seen such a difficult brat. She is still like this after finding her biological parents. If I were her real parents, I would beat her to death. Chapter 233. Her voice was soft, as if she hadn't said anything. Jing Taijun frowned. Don't give me that. This little girl is amenable to coaxing but not coercion. You didn't see how cold she was at the hospital that day. I saw it. As long as we side with her, she will treat us as her biological parents sooner or later. When that time comes, we will benefit a lot. I know. Wang Xinfang nodded repeatedly. Don't say that in the future. Just treat her as our family's eldest daughter. Jing Taijun added. Wang Xinfang continued to agree. Jing Yunzhao had already arrived at school. Naturally, she didn't see this scene. How is it? Are they your biological parents? As soon as Jing Yunzhao returned to class, Xiao Haiqing immediately asked her. This matter had troubled them for many days. They hoped that Jing Yunzhao would find her biological parents, but at the same time, they were a little afraid. Because Jing Yunzhao's previous life was too difficult. What if her biological parents were more terrifying than her adoptive parents? Wouldn't that be jumping into a fire pit? They didn't mean to think of people as bad, but Jing Yunzhao was different. She was an abandoned orphan. How good could parents who couldn't even protect their child be? Biological. Jing Yunzhao said in a muffled voice. Ah. Xiao Haiqing was speechless. That's too much of a coincidence. But Yunzhao, didn't they say anything? They must take you to see your 3 younger siblings, right? We'll go tomorrow morning. I'll tell Teacher Qi later. Jing Yunzhao replied. Her voice was listless. Xiao Haiqing and Suchu could naturally feel it. Finding her biological parents was a happy thing, but the premise was that she still had expectations for them. At this time, the two didn't dare to say much. They could only keep quiet and let Jing Yunzhao calm down alone. This result made Jing Yunzhao confused for a long time. Because she found that she could easily face strangers, but she was a little helpless when it came to people who were related by blood. She couldn't get close to them, but at the same time, she couldn't resist them. This feeling was too torturous. He spent the whole afternoon sorting out his thoughts. When he returned to the space at night, the fresh medicinal fragrance seemed to have cleared his mind. Xiaolan flopped around in front of her. It seemed to have sensed her emotions and was very obedient today. Outside, a phone rang. She heaved a sigh of relief and left the space. When she saw Li Xiaoyun's name, she was stunned for a moment. This person had been gone for so long, but he finally remembered to contact her. Hey! Jing Yunzhao adjusted his breathing. As soon as he picked up, a magnetic voice came through. What's wrong? Not in a good mood. How did you know? Jing Yunzhao paused. She had only said one word, but Li Xiaoyun actually felt that her mood was not right. Li Xiaoyun smiled gently. Even if he didn't see his expression at this time, Jing Yunzhao could guess that he must be very arrogant. Sure enough, he only heard him snort with some slight pride, as if everything was in his hands. In the past, when you picked up my call, the first thing you said was 3 words. When he said that, Jing Yunzhao thought about it. It seemed that he was right. Every time she saw Li Xiaoyun's call, she subconsciously became nervous and guarded. So when she opened her mouth, she directly asked him, "What's the matter?" But this time, it was obviously too calm. However, when he said that, Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but laugh and relax a little. I didn't expect Li Xiaoyun to be so considerate. It really surprised me. But thank you. Now I'm a little happier. Something happened before, but now it seemed to be better. That's not the attitude you should have when thanking someone. Besides, compared to your thanks, I'm more interested in knowing what the reason for your unhappiness is. Li Xiaoyun's voice was firm. Clearly, he was determined to get to the bottom of this. Chapter 234. Jing Yunzhao didn't know that Li Xiaoyun was already guessing at this time. Jing Yunzhao did have a lot of trouble around her, especially that bastard of an adoptive father. However, when he was in Huaning County, he had already intervened and taught him a lesson. In addition, he had also destroyed the Qiao family's factory. He could guarantee that no matter what Qiao Weiman did in the future, he wouldn't be able to get any profits. However, after all, it was Jing Yunzhao's family matter. It wasn't good for him to get involved too obviously. Otherwise, Qiao Weiman would be a dead man now. Although Qiao Weiman was really annoying, Jing Yunzhao wasn't someone to be trifled with. Therefore, her ups and downs in mood wouldn't be related to that man. As for that sister who wasn't related by blood, that was even more impossible. He had investigated. Although the other party was scheming, it was very difficult for her to threaten Jing Yunzhao at present. At this time, Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips and was at a loss for words. After a while, Jing Yunzhao suddenly said with a smile, "Private matter, young Master Li. I don't seem to want to satisfy your curiosity right now. You're really..." Li Xiaoyun squeezed out a few words from between his teeth, looking like he was about to explode. However, the next second, he suddenly smiled and said, "Jing Yunzhao, you're really getting cuter by the day. This young master will know even if you don't say it. However, I'm afraid the consequences will be a little more serious when the time comes." Li Xiaoyun had said the same words before. For example, when they were in the hospital, Li Xiaoyun would always threaten her as if the consequences of offending him were unimaginable. However, so far, everything was still the same. Li Xiaoyun was a young master with a bad temper. He would occasionally flip out. As for this temperament, it was sometimes good and sometimes bad. However, in her opinion, the threat was not high. Li Xiaoyun was obviously used to Jing Yunzhao not paying attention to his words. He still continued to chat with Jing Yunzhao. The two of them didn't talk much each time. However, the strange thing was that time seemed to pass very quickly. Moreover, Jing Yunzhao would become more rational. This person could easily evoke her thoughts. Therefore, after hanging up the phone, Jing Yunzhao's entire person calmed down. She even somewhat thought it through. The previous life was not this life. Let nature take its course. The next morning, Jing Yunzhao first went to buy a few gifts, then carried 2 bottles of wine and some fruits to Water Village. This small village was very remote and could be considered the village with the least amount of development in Huaning County. When Jing Yunzhao arrived at the station, she gave Jing Taijun a call. Not long after, Jing Taijun sat in a rented car and brought her to the Jing family. There was a large courtyard and 5 bungalows. There were 2 bicycles in the yard, and as soon as they entered the gate, they could see the central room. It was a little gloomy, and there was no sunlight. Wang Xinfang was preparing the dishes, and there were 3 children standing in the yard. As soon as she arrived, there were a lot of people passing by and looking at her. She originally thought that she would still be a little uneasy, but after chatting with Li Xiaoyun yesterday, her mood didn't fluctuate at all. She walked over and handed the gift she had prepared to the 3 children. "Your big sister." However, before she could speak, the youngest boy spoke first. The 10-year-old child's voice was tender, but his eyes were scrutinizing, as if he was the most important person in the world. After he took the gifts, he looked at the 2 older sisters and snorted, "These are all for me, right?" Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows. She hated naughty children, especially uncivilized and insensible naughty children. 10 years old, he wasn't young. Sure enough, he was raised to favor boys over girls, wasn't he? No. Jing Yunzhao's tone was indifferent. Your gifts are in your hands, nothing else. Chapter 235. When Jing Yunzhao opened his mouth, the two girls were obviously much happier. They quickly hugged the things in their hands, afraid that their little brother would snatch them away. The gift was very simple, 2 plush toys and a remote-controlled car. Jing Yunzhao didn't think that this little brother would still be reluctant to part with the plush toys after getting the car. The little boy glared at Jing Yunzhao and unhappily walked in front of Wang Xinfang. He didn't make a fuss and said, "Mom, I want those 2 plush toys." Wang Xinfang put down the things in her hands, looked at the children, and then looked at Jing Yunzhao. She looked embarrassed. "Your big sister bought those for your second and third sisters. Don't make a fuss," Wang Xinfang said. Her eyes were full of love. Jing Yunzhao could see that if she wasn't present, she would have directly given all the toys to this son. The Jing family had 3 children. The second sister was called Jing Xiu, the third sister was called Jing Ling, and the youngest brother was called Jing Mingkai. "Mom, is it because you don't like and love me anymore now that big sister is here? Okay, then you'll side with big sister in the future. I'll run away from home. I heard that there are many families out there that need a son. I'll sell myself and never come back." Jing Mingkai opened his mouth and said. The way he spoke didn't sound like a son, but more like a father. Wang Xinfang was just following Jing Yunzhao's words, but in the next second, when she heard Jing Mingkai's words, her face immediately stiffened. She quickly went forward and snatched the toys from Jing Xiu and Jing Ling's hands. Without saying anything, she stuffed them into Jing Mingkai's hands. Okay. I'll give them to you, okay? My little ancestor, today is your big sister's first time coming home. Can't you stop? After that, she looked at Jing Yunzhao and said, "Xiaoming is still young. The 2 of them don't need to play with these things." Jing Yunzhao's eyes darkened, but she didn't say anything. In her previous life, she had seen the faces of the Chiao family all her life. She was already sensitive, and what she hated the most was this kind of family. They were all children, but they had to divide them into different classes. Originally, Jing Yunzhao was somewhat repulsed by this family. Now that he saw this situation, he became even more wary. She had just been reunited with her family, so this couple was still polite to her. But no matter what, she was a girl. This couple could be harmonious for a day or 2, but what about a year or 2? In the future, her attitude towards her would be no different from Jing Xiu and Jing Ling. The polite smile on Jing Yunzhao's face faded a little, and he subconsciously kept his distance. Wang Xianfang was busy with the work in her hands and didn't look at her, but Jing Mingkai was like a victorious peacock, shaking his head and wagging his tail to show off his spoils of war. Jing Ling pouted angrily, but Jing Xiu seemed to be used to it, silently turning around to help the family. The Jing family's courtyard was silent for a moment. But not long after, Jing Ling ran to her side. Looking at the clothes on her body, her eyes were shining. Today, Jing Yunzhao was wearing a pure white shirt, black shorts, and sports-type shoes. It looked like a simple outfit, but she was slightly taller and her skin was very white. She gave off a valiant and formidable-looking vibe, making her look cool and refreshing. But although the clothes were simple, the style was not outdated, and the quality was not bad. It could be considered branded clothes, and it was all chosen by Xiao Haiqing. "Big sister, your clothes are really beautiful. It must be very expensive. Our mother is really generous. Big sister and I don't have many new clothes all year round." Jing Ling reached out to touch Jing Yunzhao's clothes. Chapter 236. Jing Yunzhao originally wanted to avoid it, but considering that the two girls in the Jing family were not favored, she did not show any signs of avoiding others from approaching. It was just that Jing Ling's hands were stained with ashes, and suddenly, there were 5 fingerprints on her white shirt. Jing Yunzhao frowned. She allowed others to get close, but that did not mean that she could tolerate others taking a mile after giving an inch. Previously, when she gave the gift, this Jing Ling specially went to wash her hands. Now that her hands were full of ashes, it was obvious that she had just touched it. Yet, she used such hands to touch her clothes. How could Jing Yunzhao not understand this little trick? "I'm sorry, big sister. I forgot that my hands were dirty, but your clothes have already been messed up by me. It won't look good wearing it. How about this? My mom also has a shirt, you can change into another one." Jing Ling quickly said. "No need." Jing Yunzhao said. "How can that be?" Jing Ling quickly shook her head. She turned around and ran in front of Wang Xianfang. With a sensible look, she said, "Big sister," Mom also agreed. "I'll bring you to change." "Yes, big sister. You should change into another one. Later on, the neighbors will all come to see you. If they see you wearing dirty clothes, it won't be good." Wang Xianfang also said. Jing Yunzhao lowered her head and looked at her clothes. The 5 fingerprints were very obvious. She had a lot of similar shirts in her space. There was no need to wear other people's clothes. "I have spare clothes in my bag. I'll just borrow a room," Jing Yunzhao said. As soon as she finished speaking, Jing Ling's face stiffened. She pursed her lips, but when she saw the beautiful clothes on Jing Yunzhao's body, she reluctantly nodded her head. She was a 12-year-old child, yet she insisted on having a scheming look on her face. Jing Yunzhao wasn't blind, how could she not tell? Moreover, Qiao Hongye already knew this trick when she was 5 or 6 years old. What was Jing Ling's little trick? With that said, Jing Yunzhao suddenly felt that Qiao Hongye's bad nature seemed to have been brought out from her mother's womb. She was very bad since she was young. Year after year, she became more and more terrible. Other families rarely had people like her. Jing Xiao had been watching from the side. At this time, Jing Yunzhao wanted to use the room. She quickly took her into the room and locked the door. Big sister. You can change. I won't look," Jing Xiao said embarrassedly with her back facing Jing Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao had a singlet under his shirt, so he wasn't afraid of being exposed. On the other hand, this Jing Xiao, whether it was her personality or appearance, was quite beautiful. She looked like an honest person, completely different from Jing Ling and Jing Mingkai. "I heard that you're in the 3rd year of middle school, right?" Jing Yunzhao asked as he changed his clothes. Jing Xiao nodded, but her expression was a little gloomy. "But after this year, I'm afraid I'll have to drop out of school. My mom said that we don't have enough money at home. Mingkai will be in junior high in less than 2 years, and by then, the family will have to provide for him wholeheartedly. Xiaoling is more likable than me, and she'll have a bright future. To put it bluntly, she was the only child in the family who wasn't good, so she had to drop out of school to support the family." Jing Yunzhao was momentarily at a loss for words. She had a lot of assets now, and supporting a few people wasn't a problem. But she didn't want to open her mouth for some reason. Perhaps it was her nature to be selfish, but she felt that some things should be separated clearly. Especially when she saw how much Wang Xinfang pampered Jing Mingkai, she was even more certain that as long as she opened her mouth to subsidize, she would be the same as her previous life. Everything would revolve around this family. "That's right, big sister." Jing Xiao suddenly lowered her voice and carefully said, "Put away the clothes you changed out of. And also, it's best to put your school bag under your eyes." Chapter 237. Jing Yunzhao looked at her with some surprise, but found that Jing Xiu's face was red. She didn't know how to explain, and finally, under her gaze, she lowered her head. Third sister and little brother like to rummage through things. In short, you have to be careful, and I heard from father and mother that you are now supporting yourself, so you have to watch your money. In short, don't give father and mother money. After saying this, Jing Yunzhao was stunned. Jing Xiu stuttered, looking very nervous and guilty. After Jing Yunzhao changed her clothes, she quickly walked out as if nothing had been said. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips, took her bag and walked out. Sure enough, the moment she stepped out, Jing Ling followed behind her. She looked around the room, but when she didn't find what she wanted, she went straight to Jing Yunzhao. Big sis, where's your old clothes? I put them away. Why? Jing Yunzhao asked knowingly. Didn't you change into a new one? Let me wear your old clothes. Jing Ling wasn't polite and said directly. Jing Yunzhao smiled coldly. If she directly said that she didn't have any clothes to wear at the beginning, maybe next time she would bring a few clothes and give them to her directly. But she directly used a scheming method to snatch it. It was true that she recognized her relatives, but she didn't want her to be a fool. Those are my clothes. Even if I don't wear them after taking them off, they are still mine, do you understand? Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows and leaned back to avoid Jing Ling suddenly reaching out to grab it. When she said this, Jing Ling was suddenly unhappy. Why are you so stingy? Look at how beautiful the clothes you are wearing are. My sister and I don't have nice clothes, and I didn't ask you to buy me new ones. What's wrong with asking for old ones? Jing Yunzhao was angered by her and laughed. She couldn't understand this kind of worldview. Because others didn't have it, she should give up her own things. Was this a robber's logic? Jing Ling, is there something wrong with your brain? Not to mention that this thing is mine, I have the right to control it. Just based on the size of the clothes, it is not something you can wear. Do you think your body can support it? She was about 1.67 meters tall. Although she was thin, the areas that should be developed were not left behind. Although she was not as hot as Xiao Haiqing, she was very well proportioned. Jing Ling was only 12 years old this year. Her chest was flat, and she was shorter than her by a bit, but she wanted to wear her clothes. Being said like this by Jing Yunzhao, Jing Ling's mouth, she was angry. What big sister? She didn't match her clothes. What's so great, she was just 2 more lumps of flesh than her. She didn't know what she was, she didn't know what to think, and she ran, to find Jing Mingkai's Jing. She was S's, she S's, to look S2's, to look to hers the bag. She's this A's. Jing Xiu had been helping out the whole time. She quickly prepared the food, and the whole family sat at the table, sitting neatly. Mom, what kind of treasures are in big sister's bag? Before they started eating, Jing Mingkai stretched his head out and asked. Jing Ling's face was full of pride. She sat on the stool and twisted, as if as long as Wang Xinfang nodded, she would immediately rush up and snatch the bag to take a look. Wang Xinfang was stunned and looked at Jing Yunzhao. That cold look made her lose some confidence. What can there be? Isn't it just clothes and books? Don't worry about the children, hurry up and eat. Jing Taijun said. Chapter 238. Actually, it wasn't only Jing Mingkai and Jing Ling who were curious. Even Wang Xianfang wanted to know what Jing Yunzhao carried with him every day. Every time she saw Jing Yunzhao would always have this bag by her side. Just now, when she entered the door, she reached out to help, but Jing Yunzhao rejected her with a smile, as if no one was allowed to touch that bag. Jing Yunzhao also expected this, but he pretended not to hear it. This bag was her trick. Every time she wanted to take something from her space, she would use it to cover it. In fact, it was just some small things to fool people. Paw. Jing Mingkai put down his chopsticks. I don't want it. I want to see what big sister is hiding. Xiao Ming, don't mess around. Wang Xianfang didn't know what to do with her son. I'm not messing around. Dad, Mom, you must have bought something good for her and not let me see it. You said that she was pitiful to be left outside, but how is she pitiful? She wears better clothes than us and spends your money to buy things. You're not even that generous to me. You're so good to her. Why don't you just let me quit school and give all the money I saved to big sister? Jing Mingkai cried. When he said this, Wang Xianfang's face turned white. Her son didn't like to go to school since he was young, and his grades weren't good. Every morning when he went to school, she had to persuade him. In the past, he didn't have an excuse to be lazy, so he was obedient. Now, would he take the opportunity to quit school? It didn't matter to her whether her daughter went to school or not. In any case, she would marry someone in the future. No matter how much money she spent now, it would be spent on other people. Her son was different. Their whole family only had this one precious child. They hoped that he would go to school and learn some skills. Only then would he be able to take care of them in old age. On the side, Jing Taijun's somewhat simple and honest face was also moved by Jing Mingkai. Xiao Yun'er. Look, your little brother wants to see your bag. Anyway, you won't lose anything. Why don't you open it and let him see? Wang Xianfang finally opened her mouth. Jing Yunzhao laughed sarcastically. So it was as expected. This was the first day he recognized his family. If it was like this, then how good would it be in the future? As long as Jing Mingkai opened his mouth, the girl in this family would have to suffer. From the looks of it, it doesn't seem like the Jing family's grandmother is the one who values boys over girls. Auntie Wang, this is my first time here. Rather than saying that I'm a family member, it's better to say that I'm a guest. If you treat a guest like this, won't I have to be a filial sister one day? Today, I'll send my bag up, but what about tomorrow? Give him money. Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows. He was too lazy to serve her. She had a bad temper to begin with. In her previous life, she had endured it her entire life. It was impossible for her to endure it in this life. If family members were like this, then it would be better to be alone. How can you talk to my mother like that? You even called her Auntie Wang. You don't even think of yourself as part of our family. Jing Ling immediately scolded. If it were you, would you immediately kneel down and call a family member your mother? Especially with such a mother. Jing Yunzhao's lips curled up as she scoffed coldly. A son doesn't despise his mother for being ugly, but it also depends on the time. Yi Qin didn't treat her well, but after all, she had already passed away. Moreover, without Yi Qin, she might not have been able to live. So even if she hated the Qiao family, but towards Yi Qin, her heart still retained some respect. But Wang Xianfang was different. They were only related by blood. She didn't know how to appreciate the kindness of raising her. She only had the resentment of an abandoned child. Now, with this attitude of valuing boys over girls, how could it be possible for her to feel the affection of a mother and son?